Being 7 o'clock, I'd like to open the Charlton Planning Board meeting for August 9th, 2023. First up, we have a public hearing for Curtis Hill Estates Incorporated Curtis Hill Flexible Development Definitive Plan off the Curtis Hill Road. In accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 41, Section 81T of Charlton Subdivision Regulations and Zoning Bylaw, Charlton Planning Board will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, August 9th, 2023 at 7 p.m. in the Planning Board office in person and on Zoom. Zoom meeting ID 211-293-2257 in the George C. McKinstry Building, 37 Main Street, Charlton, Mass. On the application of Curtis Hill Estates, 87 Main Street, Rutland, Mass. 01543 for a flexible definitive subdivision approval to subdivide 135 plus or minus acres of land into 72 building lots and open space off from New Spencer Road, Route 31. The property ID is assessors map 2, block B, parcel 4, and is zoned R60 agricultural. Copies of the site plan application are available for inspection at the planning board office in the town clerk's office during regular business hours. Any person interested or wishing to be heard will be able to attend the meeting in person at the time and place designated or by a Zoom meeting ID number 212-293-2257. Hey, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good, how you done? All right, good to see you again. All right, so I think your engineer is present, right?
Yes,
So
I
we'll have you do your presentation
Sure.
to do the overview. That'd be great. Thank
I
you very
will
much.
share my screen and I'll stand up and introduce myself.
All right.
All right. All right, good evening, everyone. My name is Amanda Cavalieri. I'm with Gary and Hellman. I also have with me Bob Duff, the PE on the project, Clebit Blair Jr. with the Curtis Hill Estates, who is the owner and applicant of the property. And also Julian Vertova with New England Environmental Design. He's the wetland scientist that was part of the project as well. So as you had read during the opening statement, we're here before you for a flexible subdivision for 72 lots. We were in front of the board back in June of 2021, so it's been a little bit with a preliminary showing the conventional plan, which yielded 70 lots and 9,205 linear feet of road. This is similar in fashion until we got into the definitive side, so a little slightly different from what was viewed during the flexible subdivision during the preliminary, but it's 72 lots, which was part of the prior approval, and 6,915 linear feet of road. So tonight, as far as the subdivision goes, the property consists of about 135 acres. So you'll see that there is about 121 acres that is to the east of the railroad tracks, and then another 14 to 15 across the railroad tracks that are connected via tunnel and easement authorization for use to connect the two parcels. So total land is 135, and there's 13.5 acres down to the southerly side of the property. And I'll just kind of show you this area right in here. So right where that hand is. So there's about 13 acres that's leased to a solar farm. So that area wasn't included in our calculations as far as dividing up the number of lots. So as far as 121 acres, there's about 32.28 acres of open space that's proposed. Those are the lighter green areas that you'll see highlighted up there, ranging in size from about 1/4 of an acre to the 14.7 or 15 acres across the railroad tracks. And then there is some wetland areas, about 3.5 acres, which is in the darker green, or the brighter green that's standing out. One to the upper northeast side, and then the two abutting the solar farm down on the southerly side. So as far as the development goes, to get the 72 lots, we're roughly developing about 89 acres. The lots will be serviced by private wells, and we're currently working with the town to connect into the sewer via gravity that would connect on the southerly side.
my lunch. How do I,
The southerly side of the railroad tracks at 42 North Sturbridge Road. For fire protection, we have 20,000 gallon cisterns. Those are located on 2 of the properties within the development, and we'll work with the fire department as far as location and making sure that they're sized and located correctly in the subdivision. And we're also having stormwater mitigation. We have 4 infiltration basins throughout the property that will handle the stormwater management. The only waiver that we are requesting as far as the subdivision goes is a double barrel access thoroughfare off of New Spencer Road. That was something that was discussed with a prior town planner and was the intent of the preliminary subdivision as well. To allow access where there's only one main access egress to the property or to the development. And that's something that we want to work with the board tonight and find out the feeling of the board, if that's still the way to go. We also have an emergency access that would be off of Curtis Hill, which is to the southeasterly side as well.
If I could just butt in there for 1 second, man, this is Cleve Blair from Curtis Hill Estates. So we had a meeting with, at the time, Alan Gordon and a lot of the residents on Curtis, who lived on Curtis Hill Road. They didn't want to have the access to the subdivision. One of the accesses come up Curtis Hill Road because of how old it was and, you know, all the people on there. So they requested at the time that we do that double barrel road. That other access is available if the board feels that it's necessary. But that's the way they asked us to design it way back then. And he actually made me write a letter to him saying that I would do that. And I did.
And we do
Sorry to
that.
interrupt there, but I wanted to just
Yeah.
say that.
Just to. So just to clarify some of the locations on there while I was speaking. So this area here to the south is Curtis Hill. And this is the emergency access that would be proposed. Then off of New Spencer Road, this area, you can see it's a lot wider than your standard road layout. And it would have 2 lanes on either side with a grass median going up to the intersection of Road B to allow, so in the event of emergency, there's plenty of space for the multiple vehicles to exit and enter the site as needed. Currently on the site also, we do have electrical underground or overhead electrical easement that connects to the solar farm to the south of the site. That's going to be relocated once we get through the design, definitive approval process. And then that will go underground. And then there's also existing ruins that are out there, that those will be taken down as well once the project is approved. I don't think of what else could.
The only other thing that we met with Lisa the other day to go over some of their thoughts. The way that the town asks us to design the open space is like bars of open space in between so many lots. If we could, they're looking to group that open space and then have like a flat spot where they could have a little bit of parking and then some walking trails in there and on the bigger and have an open space be bigger. This is kind of the way that you guys asked to have it designed, but we may be asking with your permission to eliminate some of those strips and then kind of, you know, just make walkways so that you can get around to some of the open space. But other than that, I mean, I think this is pretty much how it should end up.
All right, anything else?
That's pretty much it.
All right. Any comments or questions for the board? And anything you wanna, is that we heard anything from sewer department as far as the sewer? I know that the engineer mentioned something during our presentation.
Actually did it, I not include the,
Yeah, there's a letter here from.
yeah.
Oh, there is
Peter
this, sorry.
Warrior,
I missed that. I apologize.
that
Yep.
All right, I'll read it. Hi, Randy, I've completed the initial review of the Curtis Hill Estate subdivision. Application date June 7th, 2023. This time there's been no formal application for sewer use and allocation for that project, and the Water Sewer Commission has not granted permission for that project to connect the existing sewer line next to the statement of fact. That's it. Just
Yeah, and
check
that
with
is the
other
case, 100%. But I went to a meeting, the sewer commission years ago.
boards. Yeah,
Asked them if they would be at least willing to listen to it. We've designed it so that it can have sewer, but as you know, it can have septic as well. So if the
Gotcha.
sewer doesn't come through,
gotcha.
the
All right,
septic
just want to say
would
that.
go, but and they have not indicated. Lately, they seemed a little bit more standoffish. We had a
Okay.
meeting with them a few months ago,
All right,
and they seemed a little bit less enthusiastic, let's say, to
okay.
have us connect.
I got you. All right, any
What's
questions?
the reason for that capacity?
I believe so, and then I
Capacity.
think,
In the.
cross country connection.
Yeah, and according to Peter Boyd also was because some people have already paid veteran fees, but they're not connected yet. They have to take that in consideration for
That's-
the future. So,
Sure.
The other, one thing that I did want to add is we did receive comments from Graves,
Mhm.
August 1st, so we are in the process of reviewing those and
Okay.
addressing those, so the technical side of things will, we'll have revised plans for the next one.
All right. Any comments or questions from the board?
Chair.
Go right ahead, Bill.
The entrance from the secondary entrance from Curtis Hill Road, that path, is that existing now? Is that like a dirt road or something like
Yes.
that? And so does that split that lot if it
Yes.
were, so you lose a lot or so if you use that
Well,
such an entrance?
I could explain that a little bit better. The farmhouse that was there for hundreds of years, I guess, got its frontage from New Spencer Road. It doesn't have frontage on Curtis Hill Road. So right now, the farmhouse is without frontage, so I couldn't sell it if I wanted to. But when this gets existed, when this hopefully gets approved, one of the lots will become the frontage for the farm. Yeah, so right now it doesn't, it's gonna actually be part of the subdivision when it's done.
And who's gonna maintain that access road for stone removal? If it doesn't sound like it would get as an approved town road.
Right, it would be a gated access. I mean, I would think that the homeowners association would definitely have that as part of their stuff.
I get, well, what would happen when it gets turned over to the town, the roadway completed? Would that fall on a highway to maintain that access emergency for fire and stuff, I
actually
guess?
Don't know the answer.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. I
All right,
don't
that'd be
know the
kind
answer.
of, I
But
hate to
I
say
would
lawyer
think that-
question.
I would say,
yeah.
I would say probably yes.
Okay,
They maintain for it.
Yeah,
yeah, town plows it and everything, so I think they'd assume,
Just go up the hill.
they'd assume.
Yeah, but that's not a paved road. That's not
Yeah, well,
actually part of Curtis Hill now. So unless it was approved as a town road, they really couldn't do anything on that. And unless it meets the road requirements, they're not gonna approve it as a town road, right?
there's a way of, we could pave it like a driveway.
yeah, it's one of those things.
So that way it could be plowed in the winter and it's not gonna have, grass growing all through it and trees and things like
Yeah, I
that.
mean, that's,
It would cut down on the maintenance a lot.
Yeah.
That's it.
Go right ahead.
So this is a phase subdivision. What phase is the road going to be that's gonna have the frontage of that farm?
First base.
First phase,
Yes.
so you'll
Yeah.
be able to create that emergency access in the first phase?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
good.
Hold on first, I'll open the public comment in a second. Speak patient, thank you. Any other questions or comments from board? John, I know you just walked in. But the engineer did the presentation for the subdivision.
the chair, one more.
Go right ahead.
So we had talked about some of the open space early on in the Nevada design. And how a majority of it is on the other side of the railroad. What kind of access is gonna be provided to that open space? Is it usable? It seems, in my mind, dangerous to put a playground on the other side of a railroad track.
There's an old cow tunnel that exists where the farmer had his cows walk under the railroad tracks.
Okay.
to get over there. So the way the regulations read, if I read it correctly, that if you can walk to it, then you can include it as part of your open space. And to hopefully help with lockout at the beginning.
Okay. Any easement needed from the railroad or?
It's already part of the tracts of land that is part of this parcel. So the deed for, this parcel has 3 tracts of land that are referenced in it. This being one of them, the one across the railroad being the other one. And then there's a third one to the south of the property that's not included in this, area count. But that one is, it is included and it's deeded through a easement. I believe there's a connection from 1900s, I think, that has access, rights to access and re-access across the, underneath the tracks. So there's nothing needed further as far as that goes for accessibility. So you brought up a great question as far as the phased project. It is a phased project. We have 4 different phases. So the first phase, you can see that the construction entrance or the entrance to the subdivision off of New Spencer Road is part of the first phase, along with the emergency access in and out. And Road B. So that would be the first phase of the project. Second phase of the project would move to the west and construct Road A. And then phase 3 would be this northern road, which is Road B. And then the final phase would be to the west of the project, which is Road C.
All right, anything else from the board? Okay.
No.
No.
All right, come right now. Still a lot to consume here.
No, I hear you. Lisa, you're from the Charlton Preservation Trust. Do you have any comment or anything on the open space?
So, like,
Open it up to the public.
Me and one of my board members met with, Clea and Amanda on Monday, went over everything. The 14-acre parcel that's on the other side actually abuts open space that we already have at Cranberry Meadow.
Yep.
So that's a nice connection for us to make. We did talk about the easement for the cow tunnel. The grade up there is pretty bad, but we're gonna try to do a site visit just to see like how we might be able to rearrange those paths of open space, because we prefer to have a grouping. And then the parking, we were talking about having up on, I think is it C?
Road B, it's the cul-de-sac.
Yeah, right at the top of the
It's
cul-de-sac.
open space C, yep,
Open
and Road
space
B.
C. Because there is a thing in the flexible subdivision bylaw that has something to do with like paths between the properties, but that's not really usable, recreatable open space, which is also required under the flexible subdivision bylaw. The other thing that we brought up was, and correct me if I'm wrong, but detention basins have to be fenced.
Yeah.
Correct? And they provide an easement to highway to maintain them. So in this case, we just pointed out that long detention basin in the back, there's a cut through, but it's fenced. So that little strip doesn't really work. And then open space A on the other side is kind of a little, ends to no place. So we're hoping that they could work to reconfigure some of that open space and just make it more contiguous in a block.
Okay. All right, thank you. All right, at this moment, I'd like to open any comments or questions to the public. If you do have a comment or question, please state your name and address for the record, please. Go ahead, sir.
So my name is Dr. Sidney Okran. My address is 65 East Spencer Road.
Yeah.
Would you please go to your diagram where you have the, where you have the emergency access road from New Spencer Road? So my property is right there. I have problems with the construction. All the storm water washes away from uphill, maybe from the farm area all the way down. I have video and stuff like that. What are you going to do to fix that problem of the stormwater coming down? The last time I was in a meeting here,
Yeah,
and I presented the video, and I was told I will be called, and I'm still waiting for that call.
okay.
And what are you going to do? Are you going to do anything about the stormwater coming downhill, including draining the soil? And so my property, the soil is going down because the water is draining it out through my driveway on the road.
So if I could maybe
Go ahead,
answer this
please.
question. First of all, there's a big study done at the beginning that pre and post drainage has to maintain the same velocity and the same quantity and the same exit points that it makes now. So they go in and they do a complete design based upon pre-drainage where it sits bare like that or with trees or and things like that. And then after you create all this impervious, we created all the roads, and the purpose of those detention ponds is because the roads and the roofs and the driveways and the sidewalks create the water to run so much faster. They go into the pipes and the drainage, the detention ponds slow them down, and then it exits in the same areas that it's exiting now and at the same velocity and the same quantity. So I would say that if water is coming onto your property now, it probably will end up somehow like that. There's probably things we can do to slow it down and to move it, but as it stands right now, pre and post have to remain the same. If I said that wrong, I don't know. I mean, I think that's pretty close to it.
But in general, we can't make it worse.
Right.
So it has to be either,
Improve it,
the
though,
same-
correct?
I'm sorry,
You can improve
we
it.
can improve it, yes.
We would.
And we will.
Construction of the road, I'm Robert Telford, G&H. The construction, you're talking, you have these right now in the post precondition, a very large sheet flow coming down. When they started constructing the roads will be put in, they'll be graded, they'll have drainage system. So will in effect, these roads that will intercept the water and grab it. We'll bring it into the detention basins and then mitigate the flow. So in a quick sense, yeah, we're gonna take what's there and then we'll, by the construction of the project, we're gonna be cutting off some of these areas and you're not gonna have that huge watershed coming down. Or some catchment area coming towards you, it's gonna be broken up and diverted through the piping system and discharge. So to answer your question, when this is constructed, it should make your issue to go away.
Interesting, that's very pleasant to know. Can we have that in writing?
They can't make it worse.
Right.
Okay,
That way, they can't make it worse.
all right, I hope so, because I love this town, I don't want to move, I want to return.
We'll try to
You
make.
don't
it
want your
better.
house washing later.
Thank you.
All right, any other comments or questions? Go right ahead.
Yeah, Bob Berenger, 24 Curtis Hill Road, Chalcon. Where is this cattle tunnel you're talking about?
My
Could
engineers
you
had,
show it on here?
no,
I think there's only like one cattle tunnel in the whole town and this.
Yeah, this one.
Oh, there's 131.
We should name them.
There's 131.
So right here is the tunnel that goes through.
Now, whereabouts is that?
So that is. So this is that larger parcel that you saw for the open space across the railroad. And this is this is at the very end of the development. So if we go back to the bigger plan.
Way down towards the goat farm?
it's-
No,
No,
the
it's up
goat
here.
farm's on the northeast side off of 31.
We have
This is
something.
this is actually on the southwest side,
Sturbridge Road.
north of Sturbridge Road, correct, North Sturbridge Road.
So it's actually, unfortunately, it's under the text on this sheet, but it's right there. You can see that with the hand.
How big a tunnel is it? Big enough for cattle, you said?
Yeah.
I've never seen it.
I think I'm leaving my car under there once. Oh. I think I know.
Actually, there's quite a, you go around, there's quite a few of them in the Commonwealth. I mean, Route 9 in Westboro, there's two of them. Route 9. One of them was done for cattle, was actually coal for the Lyman School, but they did have these, there are RKs, they put in the railroads, would put them in, and I think in 1910 they constructed this. So, the common fact with them to do, keep it profits.
Does that easement provide for the public to use that tunnel or only the property owner?
I'm not sure that answer really.
It would be part of the open space, so it would be open to whatever.
But I know with the tracks are owned by the railroad, they're, you know, it's actually a parcel of land. So for an easement.
Yeah.
It's one thing if for the property owner for cattle, it's another thing, is it going to be an easement that the public is allowed to use?
It's an easement that it would be to pass right now for us, so it would be just turned over that way.
It's part of the agreement that it transfers with the land. So it'd just be something that transfers with the parcel to the open space.
Any other comments or questions from our folks? Go right ahead, Bob.
Yeah, that's what, my name again.
You're good, Bob. I think you're good.
The other question I have is the emergency exit on Curtis Hill Road. We were, as a street, were told that at the last time that the only thing that emergency exit could be used would be police and fire in case of emergency. Other than that, it was to be locked all times.
Gated.
The only one that have the lock, the keys would be the police and fire.
That's correct.
Would it still be, so it's not gonna be an exit where you could use
No,
as far as construction vehicles or anything else?
That was the agreement that I made years ago. with the
Right,
town.
that's what I'm asking. 'cause
Yep.
Everything would come in off the.
Yeah,
exits.
yeah, it would be gated and locked, and the fire department, the safety guys would have the keys, and that would be it.
But what about through this, through construction? Would your construction equipment use that?
No.
We don't need to.
Okay, I just want
They would
to.
Yeah, that's
utilize
what I
the
asked.
entrance.
Yeah, oh, I'm sorry, yeah, I misunderstood, yeah, yeah, no, we don't need to.
I'm sorry.
Go
just
ahead,
one
sir,
last
yeah.
question and I'm done.
Yeah, go ahead.
Is that gonna be the same way with the emergency exit coming off of New Spencer Road? Is it gonna be?
That's the main entrance.
That's
That's the
the
main
main
entrance,
entrance.
main entrance.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's it.
Anything else from the public? No? All right, they have some Graves things to address. So, we have a motion to continue the public hearing for Curtis Hill Estates until,
Chair, one.
go right ahead, sorry.
The zoning enforcement officer had a.
Yeah.
Listed some items there.
I should read that today, so the
applicant-
engineer hasn't even had a chance to review that.
Okay, and the
The
applicant hasn't
comments
seen
from
it
the
either.
zoning officer, yeah.
Okay, okay.
When that next one, September.
This is the next meeting.
All right, we need at least a month.
Are you, okay, no problem.
Yeah, I mean,
September 20th then?
I would say definitely, because we gotta get it to Graves, he's gotta review it, he has comments, we gotta get him, so, well,
Okay.
rather than waste everybody's time or.
Thank
just-
you for thinking ahead. All right, we have a motion to continue the public hearing for Curtis Hill Estates until September 20th.
So moved.
Go ahead, John, go right ahead.
The open space people here, do you have can you access that lot from not going underneath the track from your adjoining property? Is that possible?
I'm sitting to your right. We, so that other lot is the one that we have, it's called Cranberry Meadow Estates, and we access that kind of next to the cemetery off of Cranberry Meadow Road. We can walk all the way back. We need to do, we're gonna do a site visit, just go out and check out to see, because that cow tunnel does not line up with the open space. So we just need to see how far it is, what the grade is like, if it's actually gonna be like a usable connection for us. But the short answer is yes, those parcels are bought. That big parcel on the left directly abuts our 50-ish acres that we have at Cranberry Meadow. I think it's mostly dry,
Yes,
that piece.
yes, it is.
Because to the right, I'm sorry, to the left of that piece is Pratt's Brook. And that's very, very wet.
Yeah, that's,
Exactly, yep. It feeds Flanagan Lake.
Thank you.
Welcome.
All right. Do we have a second?
A second.
All right, all those in favor?
I,
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, you need me to sign an extension?
No.
Before I go?
Rainey, we don't,
Extension of
we
time.
need to sign an extension for a time frame, right? Hold on. The middle and everything.
Could you- I mean, it can be a quick email.
Sure. Yeah, you're gonna, you make the time for decision, like in October, is that how you?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that'd be
so,
great.
okay,
Okay,
And then-
aye. It's unanimous.
thank you very much.
thank you very much.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you. Nice to see you guys.
All right, next up, we got a public hearing for reduced frontage lot and common driveway special permit. The applicant has asked not to, they're gonna go to ZBA, so we're not gonna open this public hearing at this meeting. It's gonna be, right at the, September 20th, so there's no need to vote on this, since we're not even gonna open it. Good. All right, public hearing, submittal, the ZP Barry Development Company LLC, Larry's Way definitive subdivision plans, Sturbridge Road, Griffin Road. We have a Graves clear review.
Definitely,
This is Larry's Road.
yeah,
This is a continue.
changing what he came up with.
All right.
Plans will get reviewed.
All right, no problem. All right, in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 41, Section 81T. In the Chocolate subdivision regulations and zoning bylaw, the Chocolate Planning Board will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, August 9th, 2023 at 7:10 PM. The planning board office in person and on Zoom. Zoom meeting ID 211-293-2257. In the George C. McKinstry Building, 37 Main Street, Charlton, Mass. On the application of ZP Development LLC, 1 Mercantile Street, Suite 630, Worcester, Mass. 01608, for subdivision approval to subdivide 2 existing lots into 9 lots. From Griffin Road, Griffin Road, Sullivan Road, and a proposed cul-de-sac known as Larry's Way. From Sturbridge Road, which would be 20. The property contains approximately 44.94 acres. The property is located on Sturbridge Road, Route 20. The property IDs are assessor map 27, block C, parcels 2, 3, and 9. In the zone industrial general hygiene business enterprise park. Copies of the site plan application are available for inspection at the planning board office and the town clerk's office during regular business hours. Any person interested wishing to be heard will be able to attend the meeting in person at the time and place designated or by Zoom meeting ID number 212932557. Tom, who's on Zoom with us tonight.
Good evening.
How you
Just gonna-
doing?
Share my screen here.
All right.
Can everybody see that? Can you see this?
We can on Zoom, yes.
Okay. So hold on. So this is a resubmittal, that's a subdivision. So the previous subdivision we had to revise due to some opinions for our special permit. So this is a redesign of our subdivision plan here that further divides a lot into 9 parcels, and effectively gets rid of one of the energy storage systems for the special permit. So right now we've got our existing roadway, just as we had before, coming in off of Sturbridge Road, and with our cul-de-sac end here. The first lot here on the left will be for the interconnection for the systems eventually. This one here, lot H, will be for Larry to continue his screening operations. Lot G and F will be future use of energy storage, and everything else will remain the same as far as use right now. Although I do believe lot B, the recycling place has left since. So this is pretty straightforward. We've been back and forth with Graves in the meantime. Prior to this hearing here today, we've had 2 reviews done. Graves has a review back to you guys from August 4th, I believe was the date. There was one comment for supplying the owner information for the lot to the south, which if we're looking at this here, it's this KGB Realty Properties LLC, which we've added that tag here on plans that I dropped off with Randy yesterday. Mike Andrade also has those plans, so he has the final plan with that property information on it. There was an additional comment based on comment number 7 was it appears proposed lot G may have more wetlands than indicated. Plans currently indicate less than a third of the lot. The label here on each lot here contains over 2/3 minimum upland area. That's pertaining to the section 200 that Mike references here. It's 203.3B5. That's just for 2/3 of an upland of the required buildable lot. So the lot does comply. I did speak to Mike yesterday about that, so he's aware of the comment. And other than that, there's an existing utility lot easement that goes up to the existing solar field up top. And I have talked to Dennis Carlson as well. I believe it was last Tuesday. And he doesn't have any concerns over this, as this is the same kind of scenario that we've had with our last one. As far as access, we're asking for the same 7 waivers, and access will remain as it is today, pending any other further applications, just like our previous one. That's pretty much all I have. Any questions from the board, I'd be glad to answer.
Tom, thank you. Are there any comments or questions from the board? I know it's small lots now, they created to comply with the zoning bylaw.
Just for clarification, Mr. Corbett, so it's F and G are going to have the storage units.
Correct. Yeah, we had to further subdivide to allow for individual lots and side setbacks as well. So F and G will have energy storage. H and I will remain pretty much as it is today, plus interconnection equipment.
And the plan will go up to the 5 megawatt for each of those lots.
Yes, yeah, the special permit for the hearing after this, we can definitely get further into what that looks like.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board?
Yeah,
Great.
I'm sort of confused by this. I thought it was 5. He's doing 5 for each lot. 5 megawatts of storage.
Yeah, but we're just doing them.
Oh, we're not doing.
No, not yet. That's the next
Just the
agenda item. This is just the subdivision.
Okay.
That's it. So you're good. You're good.
Okay.
All right, so, okay. Anything else, Bill? You good?
No, thank you.
All right. This time, does anyone from the public have any comment or question on this particular item in front of us right now? All right, hearing none, seeing none. Anyone have anything else to add?
Yeah, what was, one question on the wetland again, you said that there is more wetland than that's on this plan right now, on lots G?
Yeah, so the comment on Mike's review, comment number 7, it said based on scaling, it appears that lot G may have more wetlands than the 1/3. So it is true as a lot in general, there is probably more than a third of that as wetlands, but as in a buildable 40,000 square foot lot for IG, there is 2/3 upland. So it complies with the bylaw. I think it was just an interpretation that one of the associates at Graves made
Okay,
at the time.
okay, sorry, that wasn't clear, thank you.
Sure.
Do we have a Motion to close the public hearing for the subdivision, definitive subdivision for Larry's Way.
Are we still waiting on additional grade comments?
I think that they were pretty much, August 4th one.
Yeah, and these plans were submitted after the August board grade review to address basically the rest of the comments from grades in their report.
Yeah.
So we can, so we can, I mean, I think, so Grace needs to look at it one more time, but we can condition that.
Yes,
Okay.
And they're gonna look at it, the stormwater management review for.
So that is, we probably special permit. But requirement of the bad.
This is just breaking into lots.
Right.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing for definitive subdivision plan for Larry's Way.
do I have a second?
Second,
All those in favor?
I.
I,
Aye, unanimous. Right. Do you have a motion to approve the definitive subdivision plan for Larry's Way? With conditions of a Graves report based upon the August 8th timestamp submittal by ZP Battery Development Company LLC.
I'll make a motion to approve the subdivision plan with that requirement that Graves, that condition that Graves review the final plans that were submitted.
These things also have the waivers.
Yes.
Oh, that's right. So that's additional waivers that go along with.
The waivers are on the front page of the plan. I think there are 7 of them.
I don't think they changed, I don't think they added any.
No, it's pretty much the standard of what they've been doing.
I can't read them.
Yeah, I mean, this one's already. For those who are familiar, it's already existing, very large driveway, it's almost a road going into the property already,
Yeah,
so.
we're looking for entire section on intersection, grade, street and design standard, general streets, drainage systems, and water and sewer facilities.
If another use changes within this property.
Yeah.
They'll need to come before the board again.
Without a doubt.
Okay.
On any of the property.
On any of these.
Any of the
projects.
7 lots created,
Can we make that a condition or is that
Saturday.
yeah, make it a.
Yeah. I don't want to approve subdivision and get off those kind of
I agree.
waivers
I know.
without some assurance that
Yep,
it's not gonna become a.
you're gonna cover our.
Yeah, again, for this subdivision, it looks like 7 waivers, but there's probably at least 50 individual line items behind. each of
The
these.
entire sections of each item.
So, yeah, I mean, it would be good to get the current usage information on the plan. Because, 10 years from now. I'm not gonna remember what was.
I don't
Agreed
believe you,
to.
no.
Well, I think we have, they're all established businesses, so I could. We can make I don't know, if each board we can do that, but make a note on the plan, like it's XL Recycling, there's 2 solar fields up there. And some other trucking company.
Yeah.
Another trucking company does just parking of the truck when does maintenance. So we could update the plans and stay with the current businesses are on those. But then,
Is the recycling business still there or did they leave?
They have left.
They have left.
They're not in operation, I guess, like the economy for metals.
Yeah,
Great at
okay.
the moment, so.
So there is no plans to use that property now or no current plans, I should say?
It's empty lot right now. Last time I was up there about a week ago.
Okay, so my only concern is if something else goes in there.
I mean, I don't, they came in, sorry.
Yeah, Larry's definitely aware of what we need to do as far as any new uses coming in with the approval of the subdivision. We've discussed it on end. And right now he doesn't have any plans for that area.
Okay, so
So
that
if he did, he'd have to come back in front of you to assure that the traffic doesn't change, essentially, is kind of how we've been talking about this.
Okay.
Big condition, they update the plans for. what
Current uses, current uses,
Used on each lot.
current uses at this. date.
Yeah, we can do that.
All right, thanks, Tom.
Do we have a motion?
Just ask-
Go right ahead, John.
But Tom, you don't own this land, right? You're leasing this land?
Yeah, I'm leasing for the next project here up on the agenda, but yeah, we're putting this subdivision together for the landowner for this purpose.
Is that? So Larry does not have to do this himself. The landowner.
No. I mean, there's, because as part of this, the property owner had to sign a form, right? The submittal form. The
Yeah,
property owner did.
yeah.
So he's in
Property owner
in
has to-
acknowledgement of what is
Yeah,
happening.
The authority to, submit the application to the planning board.
I'd just like to echo Don's point, we need to clearly define what it is here somehow on what uses we are with the waivers and such, we need to. We don't want it to be assumed that those waivers are in place for the other lots.
All right, we have a motion on the table. We have a second.
Second that.
All right, all those in favor?
I,
Aye. Aye. It's unanimous. All right, next up, we have a continued public hearing for ZP Barry Development Company LLC special permit application to construct 3 energy storage systems at Larry's Way, Sturbridge Road, Griffin Road, map 27, block C, lot 2 and 3. We have a Graves report dated August 4th. Have you gone to conservation yet?
Conservation will follow planning. They won't hear me until we are done here. They don't want me coming back. So I anticipate being in front of them once we close out here in planning tentatively next week, but I'm assuming that we're gonna probably continue tonight because I do want to address the plans. So actually, if you don't mind, I'd do a little tidbit here. So Graves put their review back to you guys on the 4th. I have looked that over. There's some questions around some proposed grading. So I have Jay at DC Engineering looking at that and just being able to just point things out a little bit better as far as grading. We are utilizing the existing grade for the site itself. So it may be that we have to just carry those lines in and make them bold so we can see that. And after talking to Dennis Carlson last week about this as well, I want to make sure that we have all of our labels for the road the same as we did for our Porter's application. Just he wants to maintain everything being consistent, and I see a couple things lacking. So I do want to address that on the plan prior to completing this here with you guys. So there was some questions on the grading. Like I said, grading staying the same as what it is today. There's a little bit of proposed grading on the north side of lot F. I guess over here on the screen here at the 684 mark. There's some grading right here involved. So there was a comment on it. I have Jay looking at that to rectify that. And Then there was an additional comment just saying that we have conservation requirements, which we are still technically submitted with an NOI. We just haven't been back in front of the board in a very long time, as they would like to see planning completed. So, and with this revision to the plan, we did cut down to 2 systems versus the 3. So we've further divided the lots that provided enough room for 2 systems on separate lots. What that looks like here is the access road will come off of the existing drive, gravel drive. This will all be top coated per the fire department's requirements. What is shaded here, I've also discussed with Dennis Carlson, including this strip in between the systems as well. As that's just proposed to be gravel right now. We do want to maintain that surface all the way through to the backside. I guess really just ease of plowing and maneuverability of the equipment in the event of anything. So there are a couple things that Dennis and I discussed late last week that I would like to address on these plans prior to us closing this out.
All right. And there was an email here from Dennis Carlson, and he echoed what you just said, so.
So I
Alright.
think it's probably best to continue
Yep.
to your next scheduled meeting for this one, and hopefully we can have all our Ts crossed and Is dotted, so we'll be good to go.
All right,
John, do you think you'll be ready for the September 6th meeting?
Definitely.
Make a motion to continue this special permit application for ZP battery until 6th of September 2024.
you have a second?
Second,
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye, unanimous. All right. Next up, we have a public hearing continued for ZP Battery Development Company LLC special permit application to construct energy storage system at 325 Worcester Road, Porter Road. Second filing.
Yeah, the only thing that hasn't been
Expensive.
done is that.
Yeah, we just need to
said,
vote on it.
There was a question on the fences and the setbacks and.
Correct.
And
There you go.
this determination.
Yep. Fences are not structures in this case, therefore. All right, good. Do we have a motion to close the public hearing for the special permit application? To construct an energy storage system at 325 Worcester Road for Port Away? Go ahead.
I thought the storage was supposed to be on each lot,
Just 2.
just,
Yep, so it's on, there's doing 2, and it's split way down here, but
Right.
the equipment.
Here and here.
Yes, yeah,
how many,
it's 5 per,
5 and 5?
Yep.
So it's only, okay.
and I believe the setback for the equipment. From the property line.
Okay. Oh, that's the thing.
Yep, so so this is the Porter Way, and this is still off of Worcester Road now,
Correct.
and we've already
Yes.
discussed that.
So that's all that we've done.
That's a really question. Okay. I'll make a motion to approve the Porter Way. Oh, all right, make a motion to close public hearing for Porter Way.
We have a second.
Better than that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Unanimous. We have a motion to
Just a question.
go ahead.
So what's the total on each for megawatt on each?
Tom, what's that one on Port Away on the energy storage?
Port Away,
system?
this is a 5 megawatt system. So there's 8 containers, 5 megawatts. They're 0.6 megawatts a container. So it might be deceiving in the way that you look at it as far as containers, but it's a 5 megawatt system. 4998. We had certain conditions. Exactly
It didn't require the paving.
You guys are breaking up.
Oh. You hear us now, Tom?
Hey, I can hear you now. Yeah, sorry.
All right. You're good to go.
Okay, thank you very much.
Or you can stick around and watch if you want.
Thanks so much.
Okay, what happened?
I think he's.
Have a great night.
He's under the weather.
Oh, okay, sorry, Tom.
So I know that, the animal control officer couldn't make the last meeting that we had for the first night of this, the public hearing. I wanted to hear from her, which is here joining us. How's it going? She's on Zoom.
She's on that, okay.
Yeah. Emily, can you hear us?
Yes.
Thank you for, coming on Zoom. For this, I think my question would be, are you just animal control in Charlton? Do you do other towns as well?
No, I'm just full-time in Charlton.
Okay, I got you. And you cover for other towns when they need it, right?
Occasionally, but very minimal. If it is, it's Oxford or Sturbridge.
I got you. So I guess my question is, how would you, like, on a scale of good, better, best, rate how the podcast LLC is when you go to do any inspections that you have done? As far as conditions, and have you had any complaints that you have received? And how was it when you showed up? If you had got any complaints, went to the site?
Yeah, so basically, as an animal control officer, I have a lot of roles, but for this specific situation, one of my roles is to do a kennel inspection. And I have gone there twice. They have me do it once a year, but in this situation, I've done it twice. And I have a sheet that I go off of, and basically it says, are the dogs housed in a humane manner? Are they able to stand, lie down, turn around, ambient temperature, adequate lighting, sanitary manners, fresh water, clean water, enough exercise space, and if they all have their rabies vaccines. And this always, exceeds my expectation for, a doggy daycare that is residing in a house versus, Barkwood. He has enough kennels and crates that if something were to happen, or he needs to split dogs up, or they need a little break, he has enough kennels for those dogs. He has gates. He has the outside runs. And his basement, is fully equipped for a doggy daycare for the amount that he was trialed for, which is 15. And then my other role is to address any complaints, whether that be dog barking, nuisance, loose dogs, dog bites, and quarantines. And from this whole thing, since it started, I've only received, I think I gave you guys a sheet the last time. I was unable to make it, but I handed out a sheet. And I've gotten very few dog barking complaints. One was June 30th, which
a couple of residents did call in the morning to address a situation which the dogs were barking all morning. And I had called Anthony right away. I said, hey, what's going on? You know, we got some complaints about dogs barking. He did admit to it. And as an animal control officer, what I do is I write them a warning. And if they are not complying, I then write fines. So I gave them a warning, and I have not heard anything since June 30th about any dogs barking.
All right, thank you very much. Do any questions for the board? Oh,
Emily, this is Bill Fontaine from the board. What are the fines?
So we have the bylaw, charge and bylaw is a nuisance dog is one of them is considered disturbing the peace, which would be barking. So I did give him a warning for the disturbing the peace nuisance barking law. So then if he was complying, I would give him a $25 fine, and then it goes up from there.
So the first is a nuisance disturbing the peace, $25, just to lay out what are the next levels or thresholds?
Next, $35, $50, $75, and $100. And then at that point, if it was to ever get that far with any kind of nuisance barking or nuisance bylaw, hopefully myself or the reporting parties would take that dog to the board for a nuisance dog hearing at that point.
Thank you.
It all or?
That you would, Emily, you said you would take it to the board. Would that be our board or Board of Selectmen?
So it is the Board of Selectmen. It does get a little complicated in this situation because it's not just one dog or two dogs that we know are owned by an owner at this residence. It's multiple dogs. So because we've never done this before, it would be a little bit of a stepping stone for us and try to figure it out. But it is something that the residents or myself can do for a nuisance or a dangerous dog, and it's the Board of Selectmen.
Thank you.
John, go right ahead.
Chair. Emily, are there other kennels in town?
Are there any kennels in town? Yes, there are. I have to check my sheet. There are multiple kennels in town, but not doggy daycares except for the Barkwood Inn. That's the only other doggy daycare. The rest are personal kennels.
Personal, not commercial.
Correct.
Do you receive, so ranging, how many dogs are usually take an average? Are there 3 dogs? Are there 5 dogs? And what are the complaints associated with them?
It varies. I have one kennel that she has a kennel license for 25 plus dogs. It ranges between mostly 0 to 10 for the personal kennels.
And complaints with those? Do you have complaints with these kennels also?
I do not, and that mostly is because it like it says itself, it's not a doggy daycare. They're owned animals, so they stay inside and they live as if they are owned animals and not a doggy daycare. The one that has 25 plus dogs, yeah, they're in like a garage, so you don't hear them. So no, I haven't received any complaints on those guys.
Anything else from the board? I think I'll take a couple comments from the public only, because I mean, I know we took a lot of them last meeting, just in case anyone has any new information since we last met, since.
Are these questions for Emily or?
No, it's more for the board, more for the board. I saw a hand up. Well, go right ahead, sir.
Ken Kozak, 79
Yep.
Public Road, I live right next door. I understand that the animal control officer, she said any nuisance dog. I haven't been out of work very long. I just retired last week, so I haven't really been home. But unfortunately, Saturday, I mean, Anthony and Elizabeth were outside with their dogs, great. Whenever they started, they were right there. Unfortunately, at 6 o'clock at night, I think it was Sam. One of the dogs just kept whining and whining. It was between 30 and 45 minutes long. I didn't make the phone call to the animal control because I thought they were just gonna quiet the dog right now. Fortunately, it didn't. And again, to me, it sounded like Sam just.
You said 6:30?
Sometime like
I can
six.
pull it up on the camera, so I'll check it.
I don't know I don't know if Sam was in the basement, if he was in the car. He wasn't outside though. He wasn't like in the yard itself. But he just would not stop.
We have thunderstorms that night?
No,
Is that
I was
what
out,
makes it
I was
thunderstorms?
out watering I was out watering my plants and that's why it was driving kind of crazy. If I had my cell phone, I would have given you a call. But I didn't. The cell phone was in the house. He just wouldn't stop.
Okay. Thank you.
One quick question, Anthony, how many dogs do you have historically? Average daily?
So I have my 2 dogs, and then one of my staff, they bring their dog, those are personal animals.
Yep.
And then currently, probably since July, things really turned around, everybody started going back, preparing to go back to school and everything. So we have between 13 and 15 dogs pretty much every day now, plus boarding dogs here and there, if they're there, so.
Was that Monday through Friday? Or?
Monday through Friday is the daycare.
So that was the weekend is just your own dog.
So those are my dogs, but the boarding dogs we had this weekend.
Okay,
as
gotcha.
well.
Any other?
I have a question. Living right across the street, my concern is 2 questions is pretty much, if right across to yourself in our situation, having this next door, how would you feel? Because it's next door, how would you feel? Because it was a lot of dogs, and what happened if it's out of control and he already has the permit and our hands are tied.
So Angela, hold on. It was very difficult. Very difficult to hear you with background noise.
Okay, I can try again.
Oh, actually, that's better now. I think there was somebody else that needed to be muted, so if you're not talking, can you please mute?
I'm sorry, I just, living across the street, as I've said, I don't want hard feelings. I have heard the dogs. I'm not gonna spend my life calling. I don't want bad blood. My concern is what happens if he's granted the 25, 50 dogs and next summer, after the permit's there, there's no recourse for us. 1 dog at a time as a nuisance. I mean, I just feel like if you're getting that many dogs, there should be a better place to have it. I guess because I'm an immediate neighbor, it concerns me, and resale of my house. I have talked to realtors too. It can be and it cannot be a barrier. It depends. But I also just want to ask you, if this were you and it was affecting you, how you would feel having that amount of dogs. I don't mind dogs barking. It's a country area. I'm just concerned going forward, or, a dog getting loose, or I guess that's all I have to say.
May I?
Thank you, Angela. Go right ahead, Anthony.
I was kind of up in the air about whether or not this was even an important thing to bring up, but I think that this addresses their concern directly. As people have probably seen traveling up and down Route 20, Post Road Veterinary Clinic is up for lease. I've been in conversation with the owner of that facility.
The building, yeah.
Our hope is that we can expand enough, get enough people on a wait list to move in there, and then all of this
Will go away.
can go away.
Yep.
The problem is that Now, for almost a year, I've had no support.
Yeah.
And one of the very first things I said in this meeting with this board was that I don't want to do this out of my house for the rest of my life. I wanted it to be a transition. And instead of being good neighbors, which everyone has said, it's been blockade and more money and lawyer fees and meetings. If everybody had just said, you know what, you're new to the community, we want to help you achieve your dream. Let's fill you up so you have to get out. I'm already gone. I'm already gone. And at the end of the day, I only pursued this because of the bylaws that existed in Charlton. I only bought my grandparents' house because of the bylaws that existed in Charlton. Unbeknownst to me, there were some revisions that happened in May of 22, and that's the reason that we're here now. But what they were, when my grandparents passed away, this wouldn't even be existing. But our goal and our hope is to go to a place that isn't in my backyard, that we can get our home back. But we have come here 5 times now, every time with improvements. I've put policies in place. I have cameras that can pull up footage. I have noise monitoring. I just installed a new fence covering, which I said that I was going to do at the last meeting. That's up now 3/4 of the way. I have to get a different size for a smaller section of my fence. But today I noticed for the first time that every truck that went by, not a single dog barked at it. So that was a substantial, decrease in even just those intermittent things that happened. Every time I brought new information about how I am working to mitigate any of the concerns. And I've really thought in the last month, is this excessive barking? I've really reflected on this. If I worked an overnight job and I had 5 dogs, I would be outside playing with my dogs during the day. I don't think on an average day that these dogs bark more than if I had 5 or 10 dogs myself. And if I'm going to go into the canine industry, I'm going to have dogs. I'm going to rescue dogs. I'm going to foster dogs. That is my life. That is the legacy of this house. And it's what I'm going to do. None of that changes if I can't do this commercially. And the way the bylaws are written, it says kennel. It's a general kennel that includes commercial kennels, personal kennels, and veterinary kennels. There's no specification anywhere in the Charlton bylaws. So the semantics about personal kennel versus commercial kennel, it's irrelevant because of the way the bylaws are written. So, but again, to bring it back around, we don't intend to stay at the house forever. This shouldn't be an issue for next summer. And we would never be approved for 50 dogs anyway. 25 was the cap that we were given with Emily, just to make sure that's clear.
All right, thanks, Anthony. Did you have a question?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Not exactly a question, but, we certainly would support your kennel in a different location. We can even promote it. But you can't, argue that, well, if you're doing something at your neighbor's expense, that's what we're objecting to. And there has been studies on decibel levels. And if I can maybe make an illustration, Riley Seafood is behind the house in across the street. If there's at any given day, anywhere between 5 to maybe 12 people in the parking lot or outside eating. They're talking at a normal level, which is 60 decibels. You cannot tell me that your dogs bark at 60 decibels. It's louder than that. It's shriller than that. It carries and amplifies. I wrote board a thing about that, about the decibels. It's proven by physics. 60 decibels It's a normal conversation, what you're saying, the dogs are barking at. That cannot be. Cannot be, dogs bark at between 80 and 110 decibels. And it's shrill and it's exasperated. It's very stressful when you hear it. And it's not just something they see, it's something they hear. You know, dogs have very good ears. But that's a good illustration I can give you. We don't hear people at Ronnie's, but if you put the same amount of dogs there that are barking, you will hear them. And we just don't want it at your neighbor's expense. We would support you. We would promote you if you were in a different location. But you're doing it at your neighbor's expense.
Thank you, Dan.
Sure. I'm Bill French, I live at 78 Little Mother Road. I've been here for the last couple of meetings as well, and I'm not gonna go over, spend 50 minutes telling you my stories again, but I will tell you that even recently, I've heard the dogs barking. Now, they barking out there for 30 minutes or something? No, but they're out there barking, and I'm like 3 houses up. The other thing is, I understand what he's saying about what his dream is and what he wants to do and all of that, and that's fine. Well, I have my dream too, and I think a lot of people in this room who live on Little Mother Road and around, we have our dream of a residential area that's quiet and not hearing a bunch of dogs barking. And I have concerns. I have called before, but I haven't recently called because I'm tired of calling, and I'm not gonna call in indirectly or whatever, right? So what I've said in the past meeting is the same. It's going on, it's barking and whatnot, and I agree with somebody said, like, if you lived on our street, a couple of houses up or whatever, you're gonna hear these dogs barking every day. They put the dogs bark, that's what they do. So I'm just saying, a bunch of us, you know, we lived on this road, some of us for many years, decades. And then all of a sudden, we're gonna have this going on. It's not right. So, and I also agree in regards that there is documentation out there, facts about residential properties living next to a kennel, about the value. So that's another thing that came up from last meeting, whatever. So that's all I got to say. I don't want to go on and on.
Okay, thank you, Bill. Anything else? Go ahead, sir.
Will for the 67, similar, I won't go over everything from the previous meeting, but I did want to just kind of comment. My biggest concern was and still remains the property value, and same thing, like there's no doing research, there is no formal study, there's no scientific study I can show you because it's common sense. I spoke with a few realtors, I spoke with a few people, you know, it can or it cannot. Everything's variable, but in a housing market, having dogs, having a kennel, there's articles that show that, so. I definitely still have those same concerns, and to the point about the dream, like, I bought my house in 2019 and, you know, it's a quiet residential neighborhood. Raise family, enjoy the peace and quiet, and get the return on my investment, and this definitely runs counter to that and feels like an attack on my dream. So, like I said, I won't rehash everything we've said.
All right. Okay, thanks, Bill. Go ahead, sir.
You know, my parents bought the house back in the 80s.
Yeah.
And I'm sure the dog officer can vouch for this. They had a kennel license for 67 dogs.
Yep.
They've had dogs there the whole time. It was not just as much barking with their dogs then than there is now. So, you know, and to Anthony's point, whether he does it as a business, he's gonna have dogs.
Oh, go ahead.
Jane Bavon, 200 San Diego Road. I had a couple of questions, if I can ask a couple of questions of Emily. I don't know if Emily, if you can hear me. The other personal kennels that you were talking about that had 25 plus dogs, can you give me an idea of what the neighborhood that kennel exists in looks like?
Yes, that, specific kennel does reside in a residential area. There are houses, nearby. It is on a dead end, but and near a construction site. But I want to add, and I don't, it's hard to say, I don't want to add this, but this owner doesn't take very good care of her dogs, so I can't say whether or not if she took better care of her dogs, it would be a different story, whether they were outside all the time, but they are not outside all of the time. So as of right now, they are on a dead end residential area near a construction zone, and there has not been any complaints about her dogs.
Okay, and there were how many did you say about there?
I honestly would have to look at my paperwork. There are a lot of kennels in Charlton, but she has close to 25 dogs.
You have close to 25?
Yeah.
Okay. One of my concerns is not necessarily the increase in the volume that's happening now, and I know you've been able to mitigate a lot of that, Anthony, but it's when it gets to the full 25, and I absolutely have no question that your heart is in this and that you are good to those dogs, and that you're providing great service for your clients. I've never questioned that, and I've said that in every meeting, that is not a question in my mind. A dog owner that has that many that's not taking very well care, keeping them inside all the time is a very different story. And my concern is not so much of what you've been able to do with your limited amount now, but what it's going to increase to once you get the full amount permitted. And we're not on a trial basis where there isn't this hanging over your head. That's been my concern from the beginning, and it remains my concern. And I can tell you personally that first vote where it was brought to 0 dogs, and you can ask my husband this too, the whole way home, we're like, it didn't feel like a win because we knew what it meant to you, and it felt horrible. But that's the thing. It's not personal. It's not about that. It's just about, you know what? But I have the right to be heard, and I have to stick up for myself and for my property too. And it is absolutely not a bad reflection on what your expertise is and what business you're able to build. It's not that at all. It's just that I have to be vocal and stand up for myself, like I have the right to do. And my concerns still remain.
Absolutely. May I address that, please? Thank you. I understand, you have definitely been consistent in kind of this trial basis thing, like what does it mean when that all goes away? You know, I know even at that meeting, I believe the term that was referred to me was flippant. But yeah, it was tough because my livelihood disappeared in that moment. I wasn't sure that I was going to be able to stay in the house that I was just moving into and being able to provide for my family. That was what happened that night. However, once we appealed, I made the decision, and this I think was in February, and this was after consulting my attorney, that I would just run business operations as normal. So that there was no question from that point forward as to whether or not we were doing something to get by. So I can say to you with 100% accuracy and confidence that everything that has happened since February is business as usual. The maximum amount of dogs we have had on the property at a given time was 19. We had 4 boarding dogs and 15 daycare dogs. That is pretty much where my limit is as far as commercial dogs are concerned. As I mentioned before, I have my 2, one of my staff has a dog. That is the number that I'm most comfortable with is 20. That is 10 dogs per person because there's always 2 staff there. Again, barring any, you know, we have to run out for errands for supplies or something like that. But there's 2 staff there. We maintain low ratios for that maintenance purpose. That also allows someone to be inside and outside at the same time, which deals with kind of all that stuff in there. But the only reason for the 25 kennel is in the event of an emergency. For example, this past weekend, we had someone who called She had been in the hospital for a week. The dog sitter that she had couldn't watch the dog anymore. She had severe bronchitis. She didn't know what she was going to do. She said, "Is there anything you can do to help?" It is those types of situations that we would go past that 20 mark. And again, all of this is only until we move. Obviously, looking at the other places wherever they would be, we'd be able to increase those numbers more. But part of being able to do this is to have a wait list. And that's what we want to do, is we want to have the ability to create a wait list and say, we can take these people out. We don't want to max it out. It is very similar to managing a classroom or a recess just filled with toddlers. Some days they're great and it's very easy and they go play and they're nice and quiet. And some days one wakes up on the wrong side of the bed and they just take a lot of management. But we are very effective at doing that. And I think that what we have done shows what the business looks like. So you shouldn't expect anything different moving forward than you have experienced really since February, since the appeal process.
All right, anything else from the public?
Jeremy Wyland, 22 Sawmill Road. I've been a client of podcast for probably about 2 years. During the pandemic, as a sort of emergency personnel, while everything shut down and people got to stay home, I did not. And one of my dreams, like everyone else who had a dream, was to own a dog, man's best friend, right? And the only way I could do this was to find an agency that would work with me. We explored many, many daycares, both in Worcester and even the Barkwood, and we heard horror stories about that. We heard about dogs that were crippled for life by staff falling on them. And then wait lists were really long. And so it was quite a challenge. And we found a company, and we actually used one in Worcester as well, a doggy daycare, where our dog got Giardia twice. And it picked up a lot of bad behaviors. And so there is no other daycare around like this. When I get calls that there's an emergency at work and I have to stay late and I can't come and pick up my dog, this service will drive my dog home for me. One of the reasons that I can still serve the general public and have a dog is because of this daycare, and that there are strict rules. Even Anthony has very strict rules, and you may be spending time in his driveway talking to him, waiting for the person behind you to leave because he wants to make sure there's no impact on traffic. And I can tell you, being there, oftentimes I hear the lawnmowers of the very large lawns in the neighborhood running that are 10 times louder than my dog there. So I really appreciate that this is one agency, one company in this entire sort of Worcester region that is just hands down. All the staff there have worked in training my dog in techniques that he taught us, that he's done training sessions with us, and we just don't find anything like that at any of the other programs of the area.
All right, thank you.
I just want to put it out there again. Podcast has been licensed by Animal Control. Animal Control has visited multiple times. There is a process for dealing with nuisance dogs, and there is a process for consequences to happen. All of that already exists. Charlton bylaws allows this to occur. There are other people in Charlton with more dogs than what we're talking about now. If there are problems at those kennels, which I'm sure there are, again, there is a process already in place to handle that, to address it, and to fix it moving forward. I guess what I just keep coming back to is I hear the concerns, I hear all of the different stories that are always told, but this is allowed by the bylaws of Charlton. Like, this is legal. There are other kennels pre-existing. There will be more after this. This is legally allowed.
Okay, thank you.
Can I address the bylaw a little bit?
Yeah, go right ahead.
So, as a board, we looked at kennels and how disruptive they can be in small neighborhoods and things like that. And 80% of Charlton is zoned to agriculture. We've got some big farms, we've got some tight neighborhoods. So to completely disallow, this type of business in agriculture really didn't make sense. So that's why we kind of had this special permit. If you've got enough land, you've got a big enough yard where you're not disruptive to a neighborhood, we should allow that. So that's kind of where the special permit comes in. It's a discretionary thing that says, okay, you're in an area where your business wouldn't be disruptive. You should be able to have that there. I've got 30 acres of our farm and I've got a barn in the back and I want to put a dog kennel back there. No neighbors around. That's a great place for one. Unfortunately, this is a tight neighborhood. My opinion really hasn't changed. It's a difficult situation to have a business like that in a tight neighborhood. So I feel for the neighbors.
Ross, can ask a few questions?
Or do we want to keep it open to the public before we have board discussion?
Oh, I got, okay, I'm sorry.
What do you want to do?
No, let them talk.
Okay. Go ahead, sir.
Just to address board member Clay's comment of stating a tight neighborhood, a wide neighborhood, those are items that should be in bylaws. Like right now, it's vague, where it's a special permit. Yes, it's discretionary. Where discretion gets you in legal senses is very gray, which you can address. Every time if someone says, oh, it's a tight neighborhood, what does that mean? That's just a vague statement that anyone can use. But back to you all.
Make a comment about the bylaws and just what speaking quickly what my role is as an abutter. I received certified letters that I had the right to come and speak my concerns at the meeting, and it would be taken into consideration by the board on whether or not the special permit is granted. So that's where it's allowed. Why are we here talking about it? That's fine. That's fine. Because I do have the right to be here and speak by my. Yeah.
All right, anything else from the? All right. This time I'd like to close the hearing for the public.
Anyone else on that? Just on
Anyone
the
else
phone?
on Zoom?
Give a second.
I see any hands raised.
Yeah, I do, animal control. I just have a quick, I guess, question / statement. I know in the beginning it was reiterated multiple times that, any complaints should be called. And I know I've heard multiple people over all of these meetings say, I don't want to call. I didn't call. I don't feel like calling. I don't have time to call. And I think that plays a huge role in this. And because the positive outcome of calling is so that I know about it and then I can report it to the board. And I think the negative outcome is if I don't know about it, then I can't report it to the board. And I think that has been a big impact on the decision that's being made. So I think that if this is to continue, that calling and complaining is going to be the most helpful to anybody, because I can't be there at all times. And, not all of us can be there at all times. So when you live there and you stay there, I think that's going to be the best bet.
Great. Thank you, Emily.
Pardon me,
All right.
but when you have your hands in soil or doing something like he was doing that day, you can't drop everything, and go to the phone and call. And I know that, yeah, I mean, you can raise your hand if you're tired of calling.
Do we know how many complaints are actually made?
No. All right, no, any more from the public questions? Not gonna get into a back and forth. All right, no more public comments or questions. I'd like to
Make a motion, we please public hearing podcast. And we'll see.
My second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, it's unanimous. All right,
Through the chair,
go right ahead.
Anthony, for you to have a viable business, how long do you think it would take you to, you seem like you built up the clientele pretty quickly. It seems like you've been a good business, you've got good word of mouth. Sounds like you do a great job at it. It is a good business. I get that. How long would it take you to get a business up and running to a point where you could afford to move into a legitimate facility and run it like a business and not a, 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 a,
There's obviously a lot of variables to that question. You know,
Do you have a business plan that you put together and understand what it's gonna take to do and what you can?
yeah, so I mean, I have already been talking to a couple people, you know, one of the important things that we're gonna need moving forward, if we're gonna build a facility, one of the things that is admirable about the Barkwood is they built that facility from the bottom up for dogs. One of the things I've been cautioned against, and it may have even been in discussions with Emily, is trying to retrofit places for dogs. It just tends to not work out well. So, you know, looking at things like that, our 5-year plan has always been to open 3 to 5 locations in the Worcester County area. Some of those may be retrofits, but the idea was to have a working business model, which at this point we have, and a wait list. Because if I show up with those 2 things to a bank and say, I need more space, I can get the financing for it. I've had, you know, some very generous who said, hey, like, give me a call when you're ready to move forward. Again, I don't know what that looks like. So there's a lot of variables kind of to that question. But realistically, my plan was to not be there next summer. That was, you know, to ride it out through the winter, go through spring, and then, and if something comes along before that, again, if the post road thing ends up working out, awesome. But I'm not in charge of that building. So if something comes along sooner than that, where I can move into a facility and the cards play right, I have every intention of moving that. Again, my goal is to continue to be able to provide for my family, but also be able to have my home back at some point. So I think my hope would be in a year's time that I would be out.
You mentioned you do have a wait list now?
I have, I am getting very close to the point of needing a wait list. We have not, partly because of, you know, the practical aspects of all of this continuing and me not wanting to increase the number of people I have to decline services to because of the wait list that exists. But also just because my entire reputation has been via word of mouth. Every client I have, I got because they either heard about me from someone else or because they read reviews online that my clients have read. We have done, I think I mentioned in the last meeting, one, I'll call it an advertising campaign. I posted a picture on Facebook, and that was it, on the Charlton local group. So once things are kind of set and I can move forward, I expect I'll have a wait list pretty quickly. The Barkwood Inn, as far as I last knew, had a 400 dog wait list, 2.5 years. And then the Lucky Paw, I believe, was between 300 and 350. So that is the need in the area for dog daycare. And again, my reviews speak for themselves. It will not take me long to get those clients open.
Right, okay, okay. Thank you.
Donna, Bill? Any thoughts?
I mean, just through, just a comment to go back to the special permit, a lot of things in town, we go by this use table. I know the bylaws are pretty thick, especially around planning and zoning. It's probably a third of the entire bylaws for your town are taken up by this. So we documented a lot of stuff. And some things are allowed just by right, you know, you meet these setbacks, these dimensions, you have whatever this wide of a roadway and you're allowed to do things. And then there's a whole bunch of other things that are not called out specifically, and that's what we have a special permit for. And those things are things that we don't see frequently enough. And the kennel happens to be one of those. And it depends on people in the community to voice their opinions about it, because, you know, we make the final decision based on all of the feedback of the community. So it's not allowed by right. It doesn't matter that the animal control has already licensed them. It has to go through the planning board for approval. And largely the decisions, I would think, are made based on the feedback of the community. And that's what we're here for. So we take into consideration what has been documented in the thick planning bylaws. And then we take the feedback of the community. We're elected people on the planning board. We're elected by the people to serve the people, business owners and the community in general. So I think how we, at least how I consider these applications.
All right. John, any thoughts?
Yeah, special permits, the nuts and bolts of it, the special permit, and that's why we put it that way. We do want to limit larger tract of land to have the ability to have a kennel as practical. We spent probably 2 years reviewing our bylaws and trying to update them because they were antiquated. They were written some maybe 30 years ago. And they had no relevance until, I mean, people have feelings back and forth about their passion. Very passionate young man. I commend your passion to, I mean, obviously you do a tremendous job, but these people have passions of peace too. And it's not it's a community. I guess that's what it is. And we're elected by the community to serve the community. So that's it for me.
All right, Dean? Yeah. All right, my only concern is the applicant, if however the vote goes, the applicant could appeal. Or the neighbors could appeal, be in the same situation we are. The judge says, hey, bring it back to us. I don't like that path at all.
To the chair,
Go ahead.
question for legal, the return back to the planning board. With what's the criteria, what's the consideration for that? Is it a brand new decision? Is it taking the old decision in consideration? And
so we had two decisions, the original decision granting the special permit with certain conditions, and then this board revisited that pursuant to condition 3 in the original decision. And the board entered a second decision in January of this year. That decision, the second decision, has been vacated. And the remand order from the court, I'll just read from it so that I don't have to paraphrase it. The remand decision, among other things, requires a board to have a public hearing and so forth. And it is that this matter is remanded to the board for its further review of the business operations at 87 Little Nugget Road. The remand proceedings defined in accordance with condition 3 of the special permit granted to the plaintiffs by the board on September 22nd, 2022. So the remand to this board is specific to that condition 3 in the original permit. So the board has a free hand in terms of how it wants to enforce, revisit, however you want to address that condition in the original special permit. And of course, that condition dealt with the number of dogs. And one of the things that the board has the authority to do, in addition to setting all different kinds of conditions relative to noise, number of dogs and so forth, is that the board could also grant a permit for a specific period of time. Which I think was sort of what some of your questions were leading to. And that's certainly within the authority of the board to do.
so, no, I get it. And my concern is allowing a business to continue as a pseudo business without some of the more strict restrictions we put on other businesses that are in the similar situation in a similar zone. We look at parking, we look at traffic, we look at fencing, we look at aesthetics.
Yeah.
We haven't done any of that for this business. It's kind of like, well, you've got a house, you're gonna have some dogs, go ahead. But it is a business and there is traffic and there's cars going in, there's cars going out. There's, if it's gonna be a business, it should be treated as a business with the same restrictions that we would look at any other business.
I know town bylaw does allow home businesses,
Yes,
so, but you do have to have the access. So we have done daycares in the past where they did review.
because you're
There was
allowed
no-
six,
there was-
you're allowed six
Yeah.
kids in daycare, so parking,
Yeah.
25 dogs, we're talking 6 kids. So that's a lot different than 25, the business that does 50 cars a day. Or, thereabouts. It has a potential for 50 cars a day going in and out. And that's enough traffic to give me pause. And so, I certainly don't, I understand we are, and I get the business that you have, and I don't want to put you out of business. I'd love to see you come up with something that works for everybody, or at least give you time to come up with something that's going to work for everybody, but that's kind of where I'm at. And also wanted to stay with that too. So I mean, if it's gonna stay there, the restrictions that could be put on it are, it may make it more expensive for you to stay there than it might to find something else. And if you're really serious about getting out of the house and finding something else, I'm kind of asking, how long will it take? Are we talking 2 years? Are we talking 3 years? Are we talking 6 months? Is a year enough? Is 8 months enough? That's kind of where my question was.
May I just say something?
Go ahead, Anthony.
If I'm still there in 2 years, I did something wrong. Like that, and that's the reality of it, is I had no intention of, my original intention when I purchased the property and moved in was to be out within 2 years, That was why I had said tentatively a year from now, because projections are looking good, but there's been a lot of hiccups and hangups kind of in the last 6 to 8 months that have prevented us from moving forward as quickly as we could have. So, but yeah, if I was still there in 2 years, I've done something wrong.
Go ahead, John.
So there's many businesses that have come here or projects that have come here. And we've dealt with the same person over and over and over and over again. And with all their best intentions, with all their figuring, they're calculating. They never proceed forward with a project. And when you grant them, which is their right, we grant them an extension. And as a board, we have had enough of it. And we're limiting, we have a review process about limiting applications for time. So if nothing's been proceeded on that project or that development or that business, we have a right to come back and, bring that person back into the board to say, hey, what's going on? This wasn't the intention when we granted approval for that project or that. So, and I think we're all very cautious of that. Because if we grant, say, an extension of time for you to get your act together, and then you're like, oh, something happened. I need another 6 months, and then 6 months or 8 months or this month. And fault of your own, your neighbors would suffer for that. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. I don't know if anybody else on this board, we've had that issue many times.
Yeah.
So.
May I?
Go ahead, Anthony.
Thank you. I think at this point, my track record has shown that I'm willing to put in additional efforts where necessary. Again, I haven't had the green light to move forward, but in spite of that, every time an issue has been brought at a meeting, I've addressed it in a tangible way. Again, cameras, noise monitoring, fence blocking. So I've made those steps, and I've set a track record showing that if I get a green light, I'm going to contact some people who I know that can help move me on as fast as possible. One of the people actually on the Zoom meeting is one of my potential investors. So he's been here the last 2 meetings trying to figure out what he's gonna be doing, moving forward. So,
But that's an expense for you too. I mean, it might come to a point where you've put so much money into this property, it's like, well, why should I move it? You know, that's,
yeah, I doubt it. I really want my house back. I really love the property. I love, actualizing what my grandparents did. I had a conversation, and I haven't brought this up yet, but I did have a conversation with my grandmother prior to her passing about this idea. And, it would be great to move into the home. And I'd love to start a dog daycare there. And she said, I would love to have dogs back on this property again. And that was kind of my motivation for even pursuing it and having conversations with my father and his siblings, was because of that conversation. But at the end of the day, I also want to have a family. And, right now we have 1 son. We would love to have more kids. That's not conducive to a house with 25 dogs. Right now, it's very manageable. My son, he loves the dogs. He's learning lots of great skills with it. But if we want to expand our family, and we do, there's a limited amount of time to do things, and we need to make sure that we can do that too. So, like I said, if going back to what I said prior, if I'm still there in 2 to 3 years, I messed up, and that means that I need to think of a different career path. It's not, it means that I failed at the business model. I wouldn't be trying to pursue profession. So,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
All right. I can't do any more thing. I'm sorry. He's the applicant. He can, yes. He go ahead and do that. But, any thought of any conditions or no? We just, I'm just throwing ideas out.
Yeah,
No,
I
I'm
mean,
doing it because-
I don't like the traffic. I don't like the single driveway, blocking customers in, another customer comes out, they have to wait in.
Yep.
In the line, it's the queuing on one of our town roads to support the business is not something I'd want to push forward into other businesses and allow. So we don't allow that anywhere else. I'm hesitant to say traffic study because the road can handle the traffic. It's whether the business can handle the business that it's doing in that property. Fencing, is another thing, is so you've improved the fence. I haven't seen that, so. I mean, I've been by the property several times, so I'm familiar with the property. If it was extended for 6 months, I'm not speaking for the board, I'm just asking questions. Would that give you enough time to get more things in place and say, okay, I can run this business here for 6 months, I've got to find something new. I don't want to I wouldn't feel comfortable with just closing you down tonight. Although I'm not speaking for the board, I'm speaking for myself. So I don't know what the rest of the board thinks.
So that's a condition, like a 6-month
Special
So,
permit.
yeah, and I hesitate to go down that
Yep.
direction. That's, I don't know, it doesn't happen with other businesses. Oh, we'll give you a 6-month. And I thought that's where we got into trouble previously.
Well, sort of think we didn't put a time limit on it. We said that we could review it. I think what we need to
Yeah.
do is put a time limit on it so that everybody knows what we're looking at. It's not open-ended. It's going to be on this day, at this meeting. We will call you back in and either everything's going along, we can extend it, which none of us like to do, or at that point, then I think we could at that point say no. No.
Wait, can we read the original stipulations we had on our initial?
That clause 3 was a temporary.
Yeah, but can we read the rest of the clauses that were involved in that on our initial?
I think you basically asking if you want to do a special permit for a temporary period of time, whatever that time limit would be. Then at the end of that time, the board to say, okay, now you come back for a special permit again, you know, and then you decide where you're gonna go from there based on what's happened during that temporary period. I know it's not like a final solution, but it gives the applicant an opportunity to prove himself and see the issues on the property, if there are.
It's not even issues, it's to give him time to build up enough business to
Right.
move out of there. I mean, my opinion is it should not be in that location. So
Right.
if it's gonna be in that location, it's gonna remain in that location. My vote's the same as it's been all along. I'm opposed to that, Rob. I've been opposed to it. If it's something saying, you know, listen, 6 months, build up the business enough to get it out of there. After 6 months, we'll see where you are in that plan. And maybe extend it, maybe not. But then you're aware of what you're working with. And know that that's not your plan to stay there. That's kind of where I'm going. Does that seem logical from a legal standpoint? That's to you.
Mr. Chairman, all right. So the preferred course on granting special permits, and they can be granted for a period of time or a limited period of time. The preferred course is to do that rather than to grant a blanket special permit and then tell the applicant that the applicant's gonna come back to revisit certain conditions. Because what the case law to some degree is trying to prevent is the kicking of the can down the road on substantive conditions. So the preferred way to do it is to grant a special permit for a period of time if the board has, that's where the board is going. And with specific conditions, and then to revisit that at the end of the special permit period, and the applicant would be submitting essentially a new application, and the board would be hearing it all over again. So that's the preferred way to do it.
Just have one question on that. If we pick a specific amount of time, the end of that time, do we have the option of ending the special permit?
The special permit ends automatically. So
Ends
it would be a
automatically.
special permit for just a specific period of time,
Period.
and it ends, and the applicant has to reapply for a new special. permit.
Okay. Okay.
John, you're still looking for the whole language of condition 3 out of that, in the original? Do we have that original?
I have.
Okay, could John?
Sure, of course.
Just take a quick look at it, if you don't mind.
The applicant is required to return to the planning board for a public hearing 90 days from the date of approval to review the business operations to date and any concerns with the abutters and neighbors. The abutters will be notified so that they may be given an opportunity to voice any concerns to determine if the doggy daycare operation is in compliance with the planning board approval and not creating a nuisance with the neighbors. The planning board at the hearing can consider allowing the applicant to increase the number of dogs at the doggy daycare to be up to 25, which is the maximum amount allowed in the applicant's dog kennel license. The planning board shall have the sole discretion on the number of dogs permitted on the property at any time for the doggy daycare.
Go ahead, John.
Few things, we could do it monthly. Because monthly, just bring them in and just have them. And.
Well, I mean, he'd have to come in and reapply for a special permit every month. Pay the fee and go through the whole process. I don't want to bring these people back here every month. They don't want to come back every month. We'd love to have you,
But as part of the condition, they, as the other conditions, they have the right to call the animal control office. So we have a tighter. The 6 month period is a big period. I'm not good at 6 months, no way. So if we did it by monthly increments,
I don't think we could do it, satisfy the public here, the notification, because no newspaper advertisement, that's a tough part. So 45 days.
So.
Yeah.
2 months.
And we'd have to notice to a butters every time. That'd be cumbersome. I mean, the board has a right to waive the fees and everything, but the noticing, you know, that's a Massachusetts general law requirement that we have to notice. So every time the permit, special permit ended, we'd have to.
This doggy daycare is cumbersome to the people that are living around it, so. That's, it's, I would play people, both parties and try to, you know, move forward somehow with this. Keep it out of litigation, in my point.
Well, we have to do something, right?
No, we have to do a vote.
No, I mean,
Oh,
it's been remanded back. to
correct.
We have to make a
We've been
decision.
ordered by the judge.
We have to make a
We have to.
decision. I'm not comfortable at all with monthly. I mean, we were tying up our schedule very, you know, that's.
And I also don't want to leave it open-ended.
No.
For, as a permanent location
No.
for doggy daycare, so that's kind of
Um,
where I'm at. What is?
I'm thinking 6 months.
that
To give
was
him
kind of
some
where I was-
time. I mean, I know that puts it right near the end of the month, which is in the middle of winter time, but at least that way the applicant knows what he's up against.
And the residents know it's
And the
not,
residents know it's not
going on,
open-ended, it's
and
no
it's-
more coming back and everything. That's what I'm suggesting. And what about because the number of dogs went down to 0, right? Do we have
Well,
to,
that one's
Well, that was
vacated.
vacated,
It's
so he's
vacated.
still
So he's at
15.
so
15.
go back up to
15.
15?
The board can set the number of dogs
Okay.
that it thinks is appropriate.
I'm thinking 6 months, 15 dogs.
it's a horrible location. I just want to say that it's a horrible location and it doesn't make me comfortable moving forward at all with it. But I understand, I don't.
Through the
Go right
chair,
ahead, Bill.
my opinion on this is just putting a time restriction or a reset, you know, the clock for whatever, 3 months or 6 months. It takes advantage of members to their lack of willingness to come back to another meeting, you know, and so the next 3 months, it's gonna be less neighbors, and this will just get approved.
But if we say-
And there may not be as many visible complaints, but that's always a problem. It's a hidden number. You don't know how many complaints there actually are until you see them filed.
But if we say 6 months,
Yeah.
that's it.
Or 3 months.
That's it.
Didn't
That's it.
that it automatically ends?
It automatically has a 6
Yeah,
months
yeah.
and he's out of business. At least the neighbors know there's a finite limit to it. It's not something that's gonna go on for the rest of their lives and maybe it's something they could live with. It's,
And then what are the
you know
conditions?
it's ending. You know it's ending. Yeah, the window's closing.
And then what
We
are
only
the
got 2 more months.
conditions?
We only got another month and a half.
To-
And that gives Andrew enough time to get Anthony, I'm sorry.
The
Anthony.
number one name I get called.
Sorry, I got enough Dave Andrew. It's Anthony, so.
Seems like a fair compromise. I mean, not ruin somebody's livelihood, like,
Right.
and
You'd have the ability to reapply for a special permit.
You would.
Right, and then what's our
At that
grounds
point,
for
at that point, it could be denied.
denying, what are the such grounds to deny?
It's not appropriate for that neighborhood. That's all you need.
And the condition could be, look at the, any complaints through the animal control.
Yeah.
That's, I
That's
thought,
kind of what we.
But that still requires the neighbors to, go out of their way every day to document and calculate and.
It's just
time
data,
and-
but that's data, that's actual data.
Yeah, that's actually data
It's data.
and from the town official, town hired
Yeah.
official, that there's
It's
an
just
issue.
a burden on the neighbors, like, it'd be better to monitor the noise at the property, and every time it hits a threshold, there's a note that automatically neighbors aren't even involved. Turn that.
So that may be, that could maybe a condition that.
Yeah, there's an automatic notice and a fine is when decibels spike.
They'd have to follow the DEP, noise mitigation that we've dealt with.
You pass.
We're almost experts at it.
Yeah, I know.
I'm fine.
Yeah, I mean, if that's the ultimate decision, then, you know, a 3-month revisit this or the special permit ends in 3 months.
So the problem is, I
Maybe that is
don't think 3 months is enough time for him to build up a viable business to go out and buy a property and do what he needs to do to continue his livelihood.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it comes down to what, you know, I'm not comfortable with going a year. Because that just is too much burden on the neighbors. 6 months brings us to December, January, and then that's it. Then he can reapply and.
Or the end of the December 30th.
Go ahead, Anthony.
I am an avid believer in putting my money where my mouth is, so, I think there's no way I could do anything in 3 months. I'm sure of that. 6 months gives me a time to put together a plan. As long as there was an opportunity for me to effectively apply for an extension, which all it would be saying, this is my plan and my move out date. So basically, I would have 6 months to create that exit plan. And then if any time was necessary past that, it would be I'm leaving as of this date. And obviously, you guys would still have the ability to deny that and just say, no, you're done officially as of this date. But I would reapply for a new special permit at that point. If more time was necessary to implement the plan that I put in the next 6 months. I think if I put boots on the ground and I call in some favors.
It's interesting.
Yeah, that's it.
I mean, at that point, the board could completely say no and you'd be out of business.
Yep.
You're willing to take that chance. And I will tell you that any extension would rely completely on how well the business is run and any problems, but I wouldn't expect frequent calls just because I don't, you know, I've got a dog across the street from me that barks constantly and I've yet to call anybody. It just drives me nuts. And it's annoying. So I understand what it is, but they are not good dog owners. I don't like putting that on the neighbors to be the police force of the neighborhood.
Because that becomes evidence that, oh, well, there's no complaints, everything's fine. Yeah.
I'm assuming that there's
Which is-
people that are dealing with it because they're your neighbors and they have better things to do with their time than to harass their neighbors. So.
End of the year. I mean, we've. Or else, or else just make the decision, which. You know, we voiced it, I mean, it's not the right location. You know, 6 months is certainly generous, 4 months is compromise, maybe with the neighbors and what they experienced through the whole remand process here, you know.
And the concern after that is more legal proceedings and further extensions.
Right, exactly.
Which
could certainly happen. Could happen anyways. Yeah.
All right, do we have a motion or do we need more time to think about it? Continue, because we have other stuff on the agenda here.
Make a decision.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we're gonna have to have, motion. I'm just trying to decide whether.
Okay, I'm still sticking with 6 months. Sure, I'll make a motion that, we approve the special permit for a period of 6 months. From today's date, with a limit of 15 dogs on the property.
Any other conditions?
Just the standard ones.
The same conditions we had before.
Yeah,
Fencing?
Um,
and he's
With lattice?
complied with all
Yes.
that stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, everything that he's done, I
Alright.
think it's,
Can I make a?
Go ahead,
order?
Anthony.
The whole purpose of this is for me to build the business.
Yes.
I would like to, if it is in the board's discretion for this decision, to utilize the full capacity of my kennel license for this period of time. Again, I've effectively been doing it anyway for this since February, but that gives me the ability to get as many clients as I can in that amount of time, and then start to add that wait list.
that's what we had granted before, was it?
It's 15, correct.
But he's been exceeding that.
Well, shame on you.
The question was whether or not it could operate and function with more dogs than that. It was brought up at the February or in the January, meeting, and when we appealed it, that was part of the discussion. So,
I think by extending the time frame, in full 6 months,
And then you had 15 dogs,
we're gonna add 15 and for expanding the time.
give you time to build up a wait list and
Yeah, I don't want to go to 25. I'll do the time, but I won't do the number.
one more point of order is that 15 commercial or 15 total, because I have 3 dogs on the property that are personal dogs.
Yeah, would not include your dogs in that.
Well, if it did, we don't get paid for them.
Exactly.
So
That's what I'm saying,
if I'm
15
trying to,
plus,
15 plus,
15 plus the 3.
okay.
with the same conditions we had previously.
Yeah.
Was it
Um,
still
including-
5 dogs, 40 on the weekends?
Yeah, that's fine.
So I changed my motion to reflect the 15 dogs plus 3 personal dogs.
The second?
The one thing, well, when you wanna, how about the hours of operation, or at least for the doggy daycare?
So we had that same conditions
So-
before.
Yeah,
Yeah,
same,
that was-
that would be the same.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there's still a discretion at any time where the board can limit the number of dogs if there's complaints that exceed a certain, I don't know, I'm worried about traffic problems in the next 6 months, once winter comes and things like that. With the 15 dogs, if that gets to be too much of the problems, can we knock it down? Is that?
Well, we went through
acceptable?
last winter and that was before he was riding pickup and drop off.
We've always provided pickup and drop off,
Oh, really?
always.
I never knew. Okay.
So. I guess that's a question for council, through the chair.
Yeah, the preferred method is a specific number for a specific period of time.
Okay.
And I think you have sort of 2 means to go about addressing the kind of issues that you're talking about. One of which is if there's a violation of any of the conditions of the special permit, then that becomes a matter for the building inspector to enforce. And both board members can become involved in that process and the public can make a complaint to the building inspector as well. The second way to control that is through the specific period of time that you set, right? So you're gonna have the ability to come back and take a clean look at everything and deny a special permit at a later point or grant it with same conditions, new conditions. You'll have a free hand at that point.
So the motion is 6 months.
6 months, 15 dogs plus 3 personal, same condition and hours as previously had. think that's it. Anything else I need? Like we said, if we have a good time, we'll take a look at it, but I think your chances are slim of getting it.
Yeah, I'll second that.
All right, all those in favor?
I,
Nay.
Nay. Aye. 3-2. All right, thank you very much. All right, next up, we have a public hearing continued to Dolphin Ace Concrete Site Plan Application, 146 Worcester Road. Yeah, we'll do it. I just need a timeout. Okay, what do you think?
He has 6 months. No, yeah, that would be like it never happened.
Just hold on for the next agenda item. Our next agenda is the Dolphin Ace one.
Oh, okay.
File complaints.
Okay.
I'm gonna read the email.
I can hang around.
Yeah, just
I'll
look
admit,
at
I don't have a ton of expertise on that particular matter.
No, that's for board only. Sorry. Yeah.
Thanks again.
thank you. I know. I'm sorry.
Isn't that good?
And you have to understand, as the months go on, and it gets colder, they're not out as much, you have the same, we're in the same position. as before.
We're like this with this grant. Back, I gave you the grant.
We were at their home
There's
a
another one.
lot, and they were at our home a lot.
It's not easy. It's not easy. You gotta-
Never had that.
We're just waiting for Rainey to come back.
Yeah, Tina would not allow that. Tina would never allow it either.
Think so. Okay.
Well, Patsy, it's good to see you. I've not seen you in a while.
You know,
She's been undercover.
the best thing that has ever happened to me is not to be on that flight.
Not rewarding enough?
It's,
This is so much more fun.
it's so much more fun.
That was. Those kind of meetings are not.
Yeah.
You're not gonna win me over with chocolate. No. So I'm going.
Uh-huh.
You can win me over.
These days. Yep.
My new position at work is all like dealing with that kind of stuff. It's
Oh.
it's all regulatory compliance. It's all that. So let's do that. It's this civil engineering stuff is fun.
So I want to make sure if it came back, it didn't come back to the.
It's easy when it's black and white and
Yeah.
setbacks and
Yeah, so
feet and areas, and not so easy when it's, how loud is a dog? That's hard.
Dark into this, so we get decibel reading.
NCAA compliance, you don't think that,
Mm,
that's the other,
yeah, right, that's fine, yeah.
that's all.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks.
Fine an athlete.
It's fun.
So what's the new job?
It's regular, it's, I'm the audit, the manager of regulatory compliance at the University of Massachusetts.
Oh,
There's a lot of it.
Yeah, okay.
It's really fun. The whole entire universe. Fun. I learned a lot.
There's a lot there.
There's too
You
much.
should have slipped something through and miss it.
All I do is train. It's to bring it, but all I do is train, learn stuff.
I love it. Are you done with it?
That's- I stole it from my kids.
Yeah.
You needed to stand up and move.
I'll wait till you come back in.
As limited as I can, yes.
Sorry, I'll be quick.
That's all right.
That's why I think.
So if you're a gym.
I had.
Inside behind my knee. Spent 7 hours in the ER yesterday. couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
And all they did was take x-rays, do ultrasounds, and declared it would be a blood clot.
Yeah.
All that, and then there's another home.
It's
Put an
just
ace
like-
bandage
And
on
it's
it.
just gotta. check itself, or are they gonna-
Tomorrow I got an appointment.
Human research?
Mm,
Can you see it?
mhm.
No,
Oh, it's in there.
it's inside, it's inside, but
Oh,
it felt like there was something there. And what happens is it moves, and I got to put an ace bandage on it, sort of keep pressure on it. And I don't know, I was home today and I went outside and I came back in and I think I tried it.
One tricky one is one. We're about, you know, no. We're going to do one.
I know that's fine,
So, you know, there's some. No, you know.
It's time to get started.
Road's not the best. It's not parallel, one way road, parallel.
Neighbors in this now.
To the stop sign, and get the Stevens. and Typically going there and back from the mile, coming into the.
Time to mourn.
You had to figure that out for the workout. If you go in there, they measure the. Crosswalk. Just before Burlington Road. If you turn around there and go back, it's 2 miles.
We have
So that's enough.
my partner.
You can do a 5K. You take- you go up there, right, 12 beach, you just want to settle.
They do it.
You're gonna go for it. My second one. It could be a lawyer, I get paid as much as I want, right? Yeah, I'm like, well, I'm now studying for the certified compliance ethics professional, which is Spain. So I'm gonna be certified ethics. I know who you are. No. Right.
Yeah.
And it's like I'm learning all these. I'm studying like. from, like, federal law.
Oh, is he?
I'm studying like.
Thank you. I just wanted
federal law.
That's a problem. Dividing and conquering.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
Doesn't look like he is.
Yeah, and then you do it, right?
All right, we got, the continued public hearing for Dolphin is Concrete Site Plan Application 146 Worcester Road. We received an email from the applicant's attorney. The client has decided to withdraw its pending application for site plan approval before the planning board. Thank you. So,
Yeah, I guess I believe there was an email from your attorney about the use. I was wondering if I can get a copy of that.
yeah. Can we release that as far as legal opinion on that? Opinion for the Dolphin is site plan? Because
The application's been, we had I had received an email about the use. From, Bob, and it was confidential, so I couldn't share.
Yeah, so that's up to the board. I mean, probably typically you would deal with a withdrawal first.
Yep.
And then you can decide, and then this will be a board's decision.
Yeah.
As to whether they want to release that, because that's attorney-client privilege, but you
Okay.
folks own the privilege.
I don't think the board has seen that decision yet. I don't think we've
No,
had an executive
I was
session and
asked to
reviewed
keep
that.
it confidential because it wasn't a final.
So I mean, that's something that we could have done in executive session to review that.
Probably not, actually.
Okay. So that's a public document, so.
Well, it's confident, it's attorney-client.
Okay.
Confidential advice to the board.
Okay.
Or, excuse me, to the planning board. So if you folks want to review it and then release it, that'll be up to
Okay.
you to do.
Okay.
My recommendation would be to deal with the withdrawal first. If the board is inclined to do that, and then you can decide what you want to do with respect to that legal advice that you got.
Yeah, I can share it with the board and then we make a decision at the next meeting. Whether you want to.
Well, we want to share, it, okay. So make a motion to accept the withdrawn site site plan, or is that just, that's done? Do we need a motion? Do we need to vote on that?
I don't think we need to vote on it.
No, the application voluntarily. Withdraw the
Mr. Chairman,
Go right ahead.
we should have a vote on that.
Oh, we should,
Because it's
okay.
within the board's discretion. Once you notice the public hearing, it's in the board's discretion to allow the applicant to withdraw. Vast majority of the time, boards will allow an applicant to do that. So you want to, I think, formally accept that
Except there.
withdrawal by a vote. If that's the will of the board.
Make a motion, we accept the withdrawn site application for Phineas Concrete site plan for 146 West Road.
Second,
Second,
all those in favor?
aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. And can I request that we have that at our next meeting on the agenda?
Yes,
That we get that and then the
Is
board,
that something you can send out to the board, an email
Yeah,
copy
send you
prior,
that,
then,
right.
okay, then we can decide when we want to share that.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Dave, for staying.
Okay.
I appreciate it, yes,
All
have a
right.
good one, take care.
Good seeing you all.
Yes, you as
Take
well,
care.
thank you. All right, next up, we have a public hearing for Edward Services Site Plan Application 16 Sturbridge Road. In accordance with section 200 3.2, 200 7.1 D, and 200 7.2 of the Town zoning bylaw. The town planning board will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, August 9th, 2023 at 7 PM via Zoom meeting ID number 211-293-2257 and in person in the planning board office room at George C. McKenzie Building, 37 Main Street, Charlton, Mass. On the site plan application.
One for the road.
Edward Services LLC, 333 East Main Street, Southbridge, Mass. 01550 for a site plan approval for the gas station convenience store. The application proposes to construct a gas station which will have 4 gas pumps for 8 fueling positions and a 4,500 square foot building housing a convenience store. The property is located at 16 Sturbridge Road, Route 20, Assessors Map 27, Block C, Parcel 7, and is 1.22 acres and is zoned IG. This meeting of Charlton Planning Board will be conducted in person by remote participation. Specific information and general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and or parties and with the right to and or required to attend the meeting can be found on the Town of Charlton website at www.townofcharlton.net. For this meeting, members of the public who wish to listen or watch the meeting, we do so in the following manner. For their participation, please shoot the ps://zoom.us/211-293-2257, naming ID 211-293-2257, phone access 16465588656. Copies of the special permit and the site plan application available for inspection at the planning board office in town clerk's office during regular business hours. Any person interested or wishing to be heard should appear at the time and place designated. Felicia, how you doing?
I'm fine, how are you?
I'm very good.
Okay,
All right.
I'm Felicia Burton here, representing the applicant, Eddie Wahid, who has bought this property and wants to redevelop it for a service station. We've gone through a number of iterations. So I think you said 2,400 square foot and 4 dispensers. We're at 3,300 square foot and 6 dispensers.
Okay, sticks and.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been redesigned a couple of times. I think we got it right now.
All right.
Right?
What are we getting?
Okay, now, I'm sorry, I did not bring, to clear it up. I did, Randy, I did email you the PDF of this rendering. Okay, I did, oh, good. All right. Yeah. All right. So we have a site, as you said, at 16 Sturbridge Road. It's 1.2 something acres. It's on the north side of Route 20. It's in the industrial zone, or it's a tail end of the industrial zone. We've got industrial uses around us. There's also a daycare center on Griffin Road, which has a big impact on this project. Right? So right now, there's an old building. It's been there for a very long time. It's a 7,400 square foot building, and most of the site is paved. Right? The neighbor to our east has some kind of recycling business. And so right now, he's got a lot of his stuff on the property. Our sign, everybody knows. Everybody knows him. So well, anyway, we'll leave it at that. That's not part of the application.
Okay,
Okay, so
that's not on this property.
well, it is right now, there is stuff extending onto this property.
I think he is, but I'm not bothering.
Yeah, I mean, his dumpster, well, you can see where his fence is, it's shown on the plan, and clearly it comes onto the property, right? He's got a dumpster over here and,
And that's all pavement, right? So he just.
yeah,
kinda Pushes in.
Yes.
right. Okay, so, the site, slopes to the east from the west. Actually, you don't realize it, but there's an 11-foot grade change along the frontage on Route 20. You know, and especially on the west end, it rises pretty quickly, and there's a hill along the west side of the property. But the site itself was designed to be pretty flat. So what we propose, and that's what's on this rendering, I have a drawing. It's R1, it's called landscape rendering, it's dated 7/12/23. That's what we prepared it for the last meeting. Okay, we show now with this iteration, we show a 3,300 square foot convenience store. The store is perpendicular to the road and it faces the east, because the traffic is heading westbound, right? And then we have a canopy, which is about 3,200 square feet, but it's 6 dispensers. So the canopy is in yellow here, and then the building is in brown. And we have 6 dispensers you fill from either side, so we have 12 fueling positions on it. There's 3 underground storage tanks, 12,000 gallons each. And then we have, I counted 13 parking spaces, but it was 13.2, so apparently we need 14 parking spaces. We have room to add a 14th parking space. I don't want to have it, we designed this to try to have no variances. As a matter of fact, the setbacks, we're within all the setbacks, and we did the setback to the edge of the roof, not to the edge of the building, so that even the eave doesn't extend into the setback. We were able to do it, so we did it.
Without the canopy, under the canopy, you didn't count anything people can park.
Oh, we'll get, okay, I guess,
So
I'm
that's without-
giving an overview right now,
Yeah,
we'll get to the
yeah.
nitty gritty. So one thing is about the change, and you don't see it on this drawing, but it's on the site plan set, is that we've reduced the amount of impervious coverage on the site. So the existing building is 7,200 square feet, I'm rounding off. And the new building is 32, and the canopy is, well, 34 and 32. So we have our building coverage of 6,400, where it was 7,200. So the area of buildings has been reduced, but the most significant thing is the change in pavement. The total, there's 32,000 square feet of pavement on the site. You know, 3/4 of an acre. We're reducing it to 17,000. So we're cutting it in half. So the total impervious area goes from 40,000 square feet to 24,000 square feet. And for a service station, that's great that we're able to cut it back like that. Right? All right, so there's a couple of large driveways on the site now. We've already gone to the DOT, most likely it'll be right turn in, right turn out, so they won't allow left turns. We've acquiesced to that. So we have entering on the right side, exiting on the left side, so we basically have a one-way flow through the station. Just in a former life, I actually worked for Exxon, and so when I started in the consulting business, that's what I did. There's a lot of service stations I've designed, I don't know, well over 1,000, much more. And our office probably does 2 or 3 convenience stores a month, you know, so this is one of our niche things. So when you design a site, it's best to design it so people park at the pumps and they look at the building. Right? Because a lot of times people will park their car and go into the building while the car is fueling, or they can move and park. So when I said we have 13 parking spaces, that doesn't count area underneath the canopy, although people, not all people, but people will use the canopy as parking. But anyway, we have the one-way flow through the site. We have a trash enclosure in the upper right corner, and we have an air pump back there, but it's really designed for one-way flow. Now, sometimes people are gonna park on the wrong side. You know, they forget their tanks on the driver's side, and so, you know, we expect that, and that happens at all service stations, people move around. Where we've designed it is we've got the drive aisle, and then we've got what we call a passing lane.
Because if you have two cars parked at dispensers parallel to one another, you gotta be able to get through them. So we have that passing lane. The passing lanes on the outside are much wider. I think it's 15 feet in the front and then 14 feet in the back. We did not go to Conservation Commission because we wanted to go through here first. Because one of the things we're going to do is remove the pavement within the wetlands buffer. So I didn't mention there is a wetland. It's actually like almost a pond and behind us. And so that has a buffer associated with it. So what we did was, well, I guess depending on how you read the rules, it doesn't have a 100-foot buffer, but generally it has a 25-foot buffer. So we removed all the pavement within 25 feet of that wetland. Not that the water flows from here over there because the soil kind of berms up, but you know, it was sort of the right thing to do. So we've cut back the pavement within the 25-foot buffer. So if you said, no, I want a 24-foot aisle around there, like, you know, the bigger stations do, then we would encroach a little bit. So I wanted to see what we're doing. We think the 14-foot aisle we have is fine because the amount of time people go the other way is, and you've been to stations, it happens, but it's not that frequent. We have a 15-foot aisle in the front. Now, it's required to have a 20-foot front yard buffer, except for the driveways. So this buffer that we have here now, which is all paved today, we've made it 25 feet. I did have a cutout for the tanks. Now, it's not required that the whole tank field be covered with concrete. And we're offering, I guess we're gonna go to the zoning board for the signs. So we're offering to take that out and just, you know, put lawn on top of it, except for the manways for where the pumps are. So you just have like a manhole cover in there. But that's not necessary. We can take that out. I finished the plans before I realized, oh, that's a buffer. So that's where it is. We also have a freestanding identification sign. We have a plan with all the truck circulations. So like a fire truck can circulate through the site, garbage truck can circulate through the site. So if it's a front loading truck, it can come between the canopy and the street and circle around and go and front load into the dumpsters. Or if it's a rear loading, it can pull up along the back of the site and back up to it. So, and then the fire truck can go through. And now the big truck that we have is is a WB 50. So WB stands for wheelbase. That's from the front axle to the rear axle. That's the delivery truck, the fuel truck. And that's the first thing you design for a service station to make sure the fuel truck goes in. And on the drawing, I think it's 2.4, we show how the fuel truck pulls and will park over the tanks and unload. It's about 20 minutes, truck's there.
About that, 20.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he'll be there and he'll occupy this lane for that 20 minutes, but hey, it's, you know, he'll get 3 deliveries a week. If he's really good, he'll get 4 deliveries a week.
Usually nighttime we don't.
Yeah. So anyway, it's not an issue for us. And we figure, you know, the type of trucks that typically come to a convenience store are box truck, because you get your daily newspapers, you get your daily like milk and stuff like that. He's getting deliveries from many different sources, unlike a Starbucks or a Wendy's or something like that. They package it in a truck and it all comes in one big tractor trailer truck, and then they deliver. So we don't have that situation here, because he's going to be getting, you know, we'll get to the convenience store, but like packaged sandwiches and stuff like that, that's going to come daily. That's on a small truck. It's not going to be on a big truck. So we think we've got this. The engineer brought it up in his review comments, but I just wanted to explain to you why we designed it the way we did. I show an arc here on the plan, and that's the wellhead protection area, wellhead area for the daycare center. And I think with the self-storage, we brought water up the road. So I was going to tell my client, just, let's just connect them to water, and then this all goes away, because we can't put the fuel tanks in that wellhead area, right? So that's why the tanks are outside it. It works. It works fine as it comes out, but we can't, and you can't.
It's not the most convenient spot for it.
No, well, no, it's not the most convenient spot. I probably would have put it on the entrance aisle and out of the way. We can't do our stormwater recharge in the wellhead protection area. So we've taken the canopy and the building, and we've kind of gone buck to grade, and we put our recharge for the roof water alongside the building, between the building and the highway. We have to go out and do another perk test, because when we did our tests, they were the low spot of the property where you would normally put them. And then we said, oh, we've got this wellhead area. So we've got that. We're pretty confident that it'll be fine, but we'll have to do that perk test. So that's one thing. The other thing is now we're draining, the site naturally flows to the east. And so we've got all our site drainage coming down, and we have curb cuts in the pavement. And we put a biofiltration system. So we're using plants that are actually going to clean the water. It's got a medium. These are hydroponic plants. I've got the literature, to submit. We did not submit, but we will submit that it does meet the phosphorus reduction. It definitely meets the total suspended solids. We've got third-party verification on that and data from the vendor, which I'll have to provide your engineer. One thing you brought up is that, again, in a normal commercial site, not a petroleum site, we would allow the water to go across the lawn, it helps with the cleansing of the water. But we do have this at a fueling station, and should we have some kind of spill, it could go out into the lawn. So what we'll do is we're going to move those biofiltration systems up against the two, where we had the two curb cuts. So rather than being in the lawn area, we'll slide them up against the pavement, so that it'll be stopped there. You normally, you don't get much in the way of spills anymore, or leaks at service stations. I mean, it happens, but it's very rare. So on the dispensing islands, you have these positive limiting barriers. We have grooves in the pavement to collect, if a drip happens, or and if someone holds the nozzle, and splashes, you're not even going to get a cup, because someone's going to realize, hey, dummy, you got to shut it off, and the nozzles all are automatic, so they shut off. So anyway. That in conjunction with the canopy over it, usually the spills stay on the concrete. Anyway, but we'll work with your engineer. As I said, we'll move our collection system right up against the pavement. We can do something else. We're limited on the depth, and all these devices require depth to get to the storm pipe that runs along the east side of the property. But there's a thing called fossil filters. There's plenty of stuff in the petroleum industry that we can block. If we wind up putting an inlet there, we can actually have this filter there. So it'll seal up if there's hydrocarbons. Right. So that's just something we can add for the system. You probably all know that the underground storage tank systems are all double wall now. It started in 1998 when they started with the federal regulations came in, and each state started adopting them. So we've got double wall everything. So we've got double wall tanks, double wall piping. All fiberglass. Yes. So the leaks happened before because they used to have steel pipes with screwed fittings like you would for a plumbing line. You can't do that. It's all fiberglass or material that will hold the petroleum product. But the industry's gone farther than that, because it's not in the regulations, but underneath the dispensers, all the pipes come up and they're hooked to the dispensers. Well, there's no regulation that we have to have a pan there too. But the industry realizes that's a source of leaks that wasn't covered in
the regulations. So when the pipes come up from the tanks, they come into a sealed booth, a sealed compartment, and then the pipes come up and then they go into the dispenser. So if there's a leak in the dispenser, it's caught. And then it's an option, but we can have leak detection actually in each of those dispensers. But I mean, it holds, I don't know, 10 gallons. So he'll know long before that he's got a leak before that thing fills up.
How big are the tanks? I'm sorry,
Oh, 12,000 gallons each,
times 3.
times 3.
Yeah.
And that's, so that'll be, they're probably 10-foot diameter, 10, yeah, 10.
Yeah, 10, 12.
10 or 12.
Is it any diesel?
One of them is,
Yes.
one of them is a split.
Yeah, I was gonna get to that. Yes, so one dispenser, I think one closest to the street will be a diesel. We call it 3+1. So you get your 3 products, your regular, middle grade, premium, and then you can have diesel. Now, this is low-speed diesel because the trucks with those 55-gallon drums that they have, they go high-speed diesel, so they have bigger nozzles. This is low-speed diesel, so it's 8 gallons a minute. So it's not really geared for trucks. You know, if you got a pickup truck, you could come in here and fill, but
Just want to add for the dispensers, they're all censored now, all the new designs, so the alarm will go inside, on.
you're talking about
Yeah,
the
the
dispenser.
dispensers, yeah.
Okay, so yes, so we've gone. It's. Oh, the regulations come, I mean, a lot of spills happen when you hook the nozzle up to the tank. And the driver disconnected and some stuff is still flowing out. Well, now there's dispenser pans, I mean, there's sumps underneath there to collect that. And you just let it go back into the tank, there's a plunger. But now those are required to be vacuum tested. So that's far beyond, liquid tight, they're vacuum tight. So this is really evolved since
There are a couple things on the tanks. So the driver cannot overfill because there is also an alarm. So he usually shuts off. And the alarm comes on and he'll know that there's something going on. And one more thing, on the double wall fiberglass, it's just how they work, that if the inside wall, let's say, has a problem, a leak in the second wall is to contaminate all the leaks. So we'll a double wall.
Right, so there's 2 ways of doing it. Either it's filled with like a brine material. And if something happens, if the brine material, if there's a hole between the inner tank and the interstitial space, the brine will leak into the tank. Alarm. If there's a hole from the outside into the tank, the brine will leak and there's an alarm. So, right. And then there's also where the interstitial is a void and there's a sensor at the bottom. So anyway, there's a lot of ways of skinning this cat so that we don't have leaks. Now, one of our side businesses, not side businesses, is we did environmental, where we used to work on a lot of service stations. But it knew it was going to happen. We thought it would be 10 years, it lasted longer, but we don't do that anymore. There's no faults. Yeah, everything's been cleaned and then there's also monitoring they do with there's pressure sensors. And so, like, for example, if you turn on the dispenser and there's a hole in the pipe that the sensor didn't catch because all these that interstitial space, they slope back to that sump, right? And then there's a probe in the sump to detect if there's a leak. But if the pressure drops from the pump, it'll shut off. So and then on top of that, there's what you're saying, there's continuous monitoring inside the tank, right? So there's a level, a float. Very
So it's all in the beta root and then alarm comes on and then.
So if that were to drop, and if the tanks are still and nothing's pumping and there was a change, and it's very small change, it's, I don't remember the numbers, but it's very low, very sensitive. So anyway, I guess I bring that up because that's one of the things, we're in this wellhead area and there's plenty of safeguards to protect the environment now with underground tanks.
All right.
Perfect.
All right, any questions from the board as far as this initial presentation? I know that you got some brave stuff. Now, Kalisa, did you get this email?
No,
from Kurt?
that
Yeah,
is
of course,
good
you got my
today.
copy. This came from the zoning enforcement officer today. He just reviewed the print, just some items just to take a look at that he found. I think one of those is kind of.
Yeah, one of them is like number 6 is the one I think that might really interest you. Because of everybody going with green that you're gonna have to.
Electric vehicle.
I did speak to Kurt, it can be 2 of the you don't have to add 2 more spots, it can be 2 of the existing spots.
Electric vehicle charging. Yes, and I didn't think of it for this, but yes, we will put the electric vehicle charging. And I mean, I know some of this already, I mentioned we have the concrete in the
Yes.
front, and we'll work, I mean, we can remove it.
Yeah.
If it's an issue, we'll remove it. Oh, I didn't mention that there is a wetland. The wetland behind us is an isolated wetland, but there's a bordering vegetated wetland on the other side of the street. And we happen to be within the 100-foot buffer. It's 15 feet down an embankment,
Yeah.
but we're still within the 100-foot buffer. So we are removing asphalt.
Yeah.
And we are putting landscaping. Not that any of this area will flow that way. If the highway flows down that side, we're gonna flow to this side of the site and it'll.
Is there any work, sorry,
Go ahead.
the chair, is there any work being done on Route 20 to allow the access?
Yes, we will be replacing the curbs
Okay,
along the highway, and actually, we're putting in a sidewalk along the frontage.
okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you about that. That's a sidewalk. Does it continue or you're the only piece with the sidewalk?
But it's.
Yeah.
It's a requirement.
Put a little bit.
Yeah, you know, maybe when the next property goes, you know, and
I know.
so we are putting it in. I'll take care of this.
Then also, one of Graves' comments was he left it up to the discussion of the board on the traffic study. I know we did one when years ago when they permitted a restaurant there.
Yes.
So, I mean, I don't really, he did say it would produce more trips. Possibly, I mean, I don't think that a traffic study is needed. For that, that's just my
Do you
opinion.
think it'll bring more traffic? People, it's more like people are already going by and they'll stop. there.
Correct.
Exactly. It's called pass by.
Yeah, it's a pass. by.
80% of the customers will be passed by.
Yeah,
They're already on the
actually,
road.
I think in Charleston Central, this might eliminate some of the traffic problems because they're not trying to cut across to the Gulf Station or anything.
Puts it on that side.
Yeah.
It's actually gonna make it safer.
Yeah.
If you really think. about it.
Unless I'm working there and it comes.
Just a couple more
quick
minutes.
Go
Okay,
ahead.
what we've done, I flipped to one of the drawings here. We're using an A-frame canopy, you know, gable end, not a flat canopy.
Okay.
These are more suburban, rural type look. Yeah, they're much nicer and he agreed to it because,
Yeah,
you know,
good for
of the
travel.
area.
Yep.
And when you look at the building, they follow the same format, you know, the country neighborhood type look. It's a little bit like Cumberland Farms would, but that's the style. So it'll be stone at the bottom, the hardy plank, so it'll be clapboard siding, but it'll be the cement board. And then we're proposing a standing seam metal roof. So, this is the side facing the pumps. And then the side facing the road is the same. Okay, we have that same view facing the road. Right, do we want to? And then we're putting a building sign above each, and that's, we can only allow one, we're asking for 2, so we'll go for. But instead of internally illuminated, they'll have the gooseneck lights to light them up, so that's a more attractive look.
Perfect. Couple
Go
of
ahead.
questions. So food will be provided, is it eat-in food?
So I'm not gonna
What
do
you
the,
say?
like, making the food there now, just,
Yeah.
the frozen.
Prepackaged.
Street, yeah.
Takeaway sandwiches.
Takeaway, or if you wanna do like,
Yeah.
you know, they do hot dogs, it's frozen, you put it in a
Yeah.
roll.
Okay.
It sounds simple like that, but not,
Yeah, like you would see at a 7-Eleven, they'll have that, but it's not a deli.
Right.
yeah, nothing over there.
Any solar on the property, solar generation?
I know, we hadn't thought about it. I mean, you could put it on the canopy or on the
Just-
roof of the building. It wasn't thought of.
How are you heating and cooling, electric, propane, the building?
we hadn't gotten into that.
Yeah.
But,
I'll do same system that I had in, Sturbridge. I don't know what is it called, but, it's, we do it off propane on the back. And it's perfect.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a cheap enough and everything works perfect. I don't know what is it called, I forgot, but
Just one tenant, not two, not a coffee.
it's all gonna be just, the whole
Just one.
system.
it's set up for one.
We do coffee, will be in.
Yeah, we have the
will be
beverage
like
counter on one side.
My own, not, yeah, like a bring back,
Is this plan, do you know the flag yet, or does this plan have to go through approval of the franchise?
No, it's, I own the land, it's just.
It's Eddie's. It's his
just,
brand.
It's not an Exxon, not a.
No,
Eddie's
it's
gas.
a private,
Oh,
it's like Sturbridge, it's
Yeah.
Edwards Gas.
Edwards,
So
okay.
I just started it since 2003 and.
That's a long time, good for you.
Is the other one in Southbridge, Mr.
One in,
Edward?
one in
That's it too?
Southbridge,
Okay.
and then that's full service still,
Okay.
and then one in Sturbridge, kind of similar to this one's
So
at
you got-
at 40 Main Street, Sturbridge, if you guys go take a look at the building design. It's almost the same, I'm gonna keep that same stone, I like that tone, it's kind of, the color is good.
Is that the one they just redid?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, the one
In Sturbridge?
in Sturbridge,
They're just-
yeah,
okay.
40 Main Street.
Yeah.
You share employees among all the facilities and rotate them around and.
Edwards?
I mean, I don't know about that, the difference between 40 Main and Sturbridge and Southbridge, full service, all different, self-service, so, but I'll make sure we'll.
How many employees you think you need?
Okay, yep, I got you.
So, the store probably only a couple, it's really easy,
Yeah,
it does itself, so on the gas part, because they run it from the side.
Yeah.
You'll have two computers, two POS system, and
Are you, what are
It's
you
simple.
thinking for 24/7 or?
Reasonable?
no, I don't think, no.
8 to 8 or?
It won't work with it, 24/7, that street will slow down a little bit. So, well, I might do, 5 to 10 or 11, something like that.
Cool.
All right, or some hours it's not worth it, unless the town needs it, but I don't know, there probably a lot of gas station open that late.
So there's more work to be done there, so we'll probably
Yeah.
continue this
Yeah.
public hearing for,
We get Kurt's comments and also Graves' comments.
when do we wanna,
You want to do the 22nd of September or the 6th of September?
Yeah,
Please.
September sixth or September 20th is your choice.
Why don't we do the 20th?
Okay.
Is it okay with you, September 20th?
Yeah, I mean, I think it would work.
This way we can, feedback and get feedback before we come.
Absolutely.
I wanted to get your read here before we went to the Conservation Commission. So I think I'll proceed with them because if we were gonna expand the building and the pavement, then I gotta change my buffer numbers. And I didn't want to get into all that.
Okay.
And then I guess, and we'll square this away, but the sign for a special permit, we can go to 36 square feet. So we'll clean that up and get that into, so we can get that covered at the same time. Because the ID sign is allowed to be 36 with a special permit. I think, yeah, and then there's a secondary sign that's only allowed to be 10% of that, but if you don't have a price sign, customers aren't gonna come, so we'll have to go to the zoning board. Because the price sign is the same as the primary sign.
I want to ask a question that I asked, how are we hiding I know the neighbor's gonna continue what he's doing, and I'm fine, but how we,
is there a fence going?
Yes, thank you. I didn't wanna, I was out of order, but yes, we're gonna have a solid vinyl privacy fence along that property line. Okay, and I think it's like back 20 feet from the road, so we don't block sight distance, but we'll put a fence on that property line.
any trees going there? Or do we have?
Well, we didn't plant, you could see, we're gonna plant around the site, we could put more vegetation. There's an easement on that part of the property, for the people behind us.
There's like a road, yeah.
But, they've got concrete barriers, this hasn't been used, I think there's a tree down across the road, and, they've got plenty of access out of Griffin Road, but. We could plant, I don't
So
think there's any.
I'm gonna tell you that we did title search, I made attorneys and all pull up some information. He thinks something with the easement is expired, anything.
I think it did, that's
Yeah.
why he has an entrance further down 20 heading west.
Yeah, he thinks it, but I mean,
Yeah, I think.
but yeah, if we have room, I personally like some trees there. Just to make the difference.
30 years or something
Yeah.
like that.
It's still very responsible.
So you're not tying into the state drainage or anything?
Well, okay, we are tying into the drainage system, but it comes from up by Griffin Road and it comes down and it passes under the highway.
All right, so you're
So
not
I wouldn't, no, we're tying into that pipe.
into that pipe, but
But-
not into Route 20 anywhere.
No, but now what they did in the state, they put an inlet and tie into it. But
Okay,
it's not the state system.
okay.
That's, because if it breaks over here, they're not gonna come and fix it,
No,
right?
no.
So, and if we were up here, no one would even think about asking that question, up here meaning further away from Route 20. So,
Okay, good.
but it's nice to tie into a,
Pre-existing.
well, into a drainage system rather than let it run across the driveway. I don't understand that.
All right.
All right, I'll make a motion that we continue this public hearing for Edward Service Incorporated to September 20th.
Second that?
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. All right, thank you, guys.
Thank
Okay,
you
great.
very much.
All right, next up, we have an A and R on Burlingame Road for M Hawk. We're looking to create one lot.
Still tonight, you guys?
Yeah, we're still going.
Pushing
A
through,
long one.
pushing through.
The M-Hawks have waited a long time.
Yeah, I know.
Yes. They came and they hung out and went home, had dinner.
Yeah, that applicant is there.
We are.
One lot and two. They have, Curtis looked at this, but they have a strange bump out here so they get the quote when they need.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we only like one.
They can't, yes.
One piece of land. Now they make.
Thanks, guys.
Build a second.
Right.
Thanks, please, so.
So it's pretty straightforward. The only thing, it's not really ours. I mean, this garage is right at the 15-foot setback line, but that's the property owner's issue whenever they come in for permits. So it meets the bylaws as it is.
So this whole thing is lot A.
Yes,
That whole thing's what they're breaking on.
then they use pump house so they can get to 175 feet.
Oh, over.
Kind
I
of
got that.
weird,
Yeah,
but you
okay,
know,
I got you.
it meets the requirements of the bylaws.
Okay.
So what is the front, oh, there, I mean,
Yeah,
The
there's-
frontage is funny.
Right, yeah, they just added this little utility that, but it's 75 there.
I'll make a motion to approve the M-Hoff property as submitted.
Second.
All those in favor?
Third.
Aye.
I,
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay, this is Tim Emhoff. I'm on Zoom. Do you have any questions?
No, I think we're pretty good, it's pretty straightforward.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you for waiting. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, It's an interesting meeting.
Thank you.
We are not building a kennel.
thank you.
Yeah. We have one more item.
Well, you picked a fun one to come back to.
Yeah.
That's it, you come back, we're here for 3 hours. What's going on? Just like old times.
She draws the crap, too, doesn't she?
The crowd pleaser.
Yeah.
They think that's on.
Yeah.
Yeah, later.
This is actually, it's already been approved. What happens, they didn't file with the registry of deeds in time. So the registry of deeds, so go back to the board, have the board sign it again. So they can file it, so.
Is there a 30-day? Clock?
6 months and they did, yeah, what, they didn't.
Oops. Oh, is this, Smith Road?
Yeah, Smith Road with the 5 lots.
Oh,
Yeah.
five,
Yeah.
it's not the.
Yeah.
Maybe just don't.
So that's the reason. The board already approved that, it's just a matter of, we gotta update with the board's new signatures and new dates so they can file it with the registry of deeds.
Tired?
Yeah.
Sure. People.
No.
Is there anything else, Randy?
No, that's it.
All right, I'd like to welcome back Patsy, who just
Yay.
appointed by alternate.
Welcome home.
Good to have you back.
Not that I do very much of an alternate.
That's all right. Your
Hey,
input's always,
great info.
always appreciated.
Yeah.
I'm trying to extend my time, so when I like, in eighty, they could be like, she was on committees for 60 years.
Volunteer.
When you get the cave,
I started at 24, so just
when you get
think.
the post cave.
I was on my first one at 24, so think of like how many years, I'm like, when I get the record.
It happened.
She said 17 last night.
Well, she wanted to know how young I am. I think I'm working, so I have to go leave. Yeah, but I should have my job.
Yep.
I love it.
Busy day.
All right, does anyone have anything else that came up? No?
Well, just the recap of last night's meeting
Oh, yes.
with
Oh, yeah.
UGG, so we did agree to sign the
Yes, that's,
settlement.
yeah, it was originally way back when they had Don as vice chair, so. You
Yeah,
gotta cross out Don's name and sign your name.
do you
on
want
it.
to come back? You want to sign that now, or do you?
Yeah, you can do it now, then give it back to now.
To correct that like
It's
3 or 4
public
times.
information,
We did,
so.
we told 3 or 4 times to correct.
But the big point we're trying to get is like, what's the next step for us? So it's remanded, so the remand will come back to us.
Yeah, we'll have to approve it
And we'll have to approve it
with those conditions.
with those conditions, and the remand, when we asked, when is it gonna come back? It's not up to us, the court will.
Correct, they have to send it.
They have to come back, sit in front of us again.
Yeah, it's public information. I
It's
saw it on.
public now, yeah, anybody who wanted to know what the agreement was.
It's already been posted on the town website.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Is there a time limit on that? How long they have to,
To resubmit, I would imagine that part would go pretty quick, because I think they only have 2 years.
yes.
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 There's a 2-year time limit for, I think they can submit, then it goes away after that.
yes.
Correct. Vacates.
That was one of the bigger time limits that
Yeah.
would change,
They
All right.
have 2 years.
but they would have it anyhow.
Yeah. So I would imagine that would come pretty quick. And then the additional site plans or the new site plans and that whole process begins.
The motion to adjourn.
No, not yet.
But the subdivision is definitely out.
Well, they won't build it yet. They're not guaranteed not to build. No, they guarantee, yes, no, they would guarantee not to build it. Yep. Yep, yep.
We'll see what actually happens. The market really isn't there for those types of facilities anymore, so. I'm not sure it'll actually ever get built, but we'll see.
That's fine. That's an okay thing too.
Well, they come in with a smaller design to begin with.
They have to, yeah.
They might have had a another chance at it anyway.
Right.
It would have been up, down, running.
It's true, it's true, it's just.
We need to sign that in a meeting, or can we adjourn?
Was that?
We need to sign that agreement in a meeting, or?
No, we just need to be done.
Anything else?
I don't have anything else.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.